And I just accepted your friend request.
Okay, you treat him like he was white.
I sure did.
Okay, here we are. Okay, everybody.
Turn off
Everybody's
my
on
phone.
point. I'm ready. I'm ready. Hey, everyone. We're having a discussion. Tonight, we're talking about making America fight again and illegals unplugged. I am here. Reparations Nation, welcome, welcome. White Jesus to everybody, MFM. And if we get MFM, maybe we won't need White Jesus. He's sort of a crutch. But if you got a broke leg, you really need a crutch. So if I had to have a crutch, I'd rather be White Jesus than anything else. I don't care who I offended. I love White Jesus. In fact, where is he? Here he is. Hey, he wants us to go and go sand nigger hunting. I don't agree with him about that. Am I a bad believer? Now, this could be one of those apostolic Christian Zionist Jesus that loves slavery, apartheid, killing Arabs, taking other people's shit, and you have to forgive them even when they don't stop. But, white Jesus, he has something to tell me. Oh, white Jesus. He told me to go back to Africa. You know I'm Indian, man. Well, he's still all mine. I love white Jesus. I love white Jesus. Yes,
I'm
I
here.
do. You need a white Jesus. Oh, no, I'm ready. I'm here with white
Okay,
Jesus.
I get you.
You want to see my white Jesus? He's so cool. And I've got bigger ones. In fact, send me a contribution. I want a big inflatable white Jesus. In fact, Clyburn's got one. Hakeem Jeffries. Hakeem Jeffries' white Jesus sleeps on his chest. Well, I don't know what he did to help end slavery, but I'm certain he did something. MFM, and let me just say this to y'all. For everybody that's in the mood, let me see. I got this book today. Actually, I got this week.
What have you done for me lately?
Hold on, I gotta put you down for a minute, white Jesus. I'll pick you back up. I need my crutch. And I need a church, which is a crutch too. Good music, unhealthy but tasty food, poor leadership, but man, they got great music. And if you're into like health coaching, if you're trying to help people lose weight and make money off of fat people, you should join the church. There's so many morbidly overweight people that need your advice, almost as much as they need the Bible. So anyway, let me just tell you, it's coming. Here's my book. This is talking about, it's called Brooding Over Bloody Revenge by Nikki M. Taylor. I'm going to probably read some of this tonight. And this is talking about how black women were killing people back during slavery, right? And bread and wine, well, I like that. It's too bad we couldn't have bread and fried fish. Then it would really be a democratic event.
Let's talk to. And tonight,
Oh, here.
special program. Tonight's program is titled "Make America Fight Again." We're with Dr. Short, and we have a special guest, Sister Aja. And Sister Aja, Dr. Short, what's going on?
Well, white Jesus to everybody. MFM, Juneteenth, if it's not Juneteenth. And I hope everybody out there, because isn't Juneteenth, isn't it tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay, so happy Juneteenth, because it's not Juneteenth until we get paid. And please don't go out twerking. And it's not a Pan-African event. You know, Pan-Africanism has as much in common with Juneteenth as chlamydia does with being a nun. But then again, I know some of us will find some way to make nuns have chlamydia. I get it. We always have to be so special. And also, you know, we're going to be talking about, what we're going to talk about? We're going to be talking about Iran for all the ignorant people, Iran for the literate ones, and we'll be talking about fake ass Christian Zionism and all the little dumb fuck ass people out there on their way to hell with the apostate gospel thinking Polacks and Germans are Hebrews. Just because they have Hebrew national hot dogs doesn't mean they're Hebrews. So, you know, and then we're going to be talking about illegals unplugged. And,
Yes.
you know, and basically, you know, so also I want to just start you guys off. When people ask you about folks getting benefits, Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, and all of that, just say go. Can y'all say just say go? MFM, just say go. When they ask you about ICE picking up people so your kids can get summer jobs, or your apartment rents come down to a livable means of what you could pay, just say go. When you get tired of seeing your Home Depot or your shopping center area or everything look like it's a tacky Mexico City or Guadalajara or Tegucigalpa or some shit like that, just say go. When you get tired of tethers with thick accents and strange body odors and, you know, all kinds of stuff, just say go. Just say go. And also, I have another saying: we're woke, we're grown, don't vote, we stay home. Please, I want to just thank all of you for keeping your black asses and assets, if you're a sister. Men have asses and women have assets. Remember the primes and the primettes? Okay, keeping your black asses and your black assets home during the no king shit. It was bogus. In fact, what they really should have been saying is no reparations, no black America, no FBA, no restitution, no black anti-black crime bill, no help for black veterans, no help for black farmers. That's the real march, because that's what they're down on, is us not having anything. So for all of you that kept your intelligent black asses in the house, and maybe you watched the sorry ass Tonka toy military parade of Donald Trump, you know, he would have fired anybody on The Apprentice that had such a fucked up little gathering in the name of the military. I mean, really, I mean, there was no drones and shit. All the people Obama killed with drones, you could have at least had a drone with like a wig that looked like your hair. There's something that could have been done. The March for Sorry, I don't get it. And DC streets are already fucked up. The only place worse is Baltimore. In fact, you can raise catfish in the potholes in Baltimore. Ask someone if you don't know. So tonight we'll be talking about Iran, and we'll be talking about Israel, and we'll be talking about GCP. You know, all the people that say that they're God's chosen people, but you can't prove that by me with all the porn, liquor, drugs, organ harvesting, wars without end. I mean, just like whacking palaces, attacking ambulances and shit, blowing up hospitals. If that's God's people, hell may not be such a bad place. But then again, maybe they're not God's chosen people. Maybe they're people that pick themselves. After all, everybody wants God's blessing, but not everybody wants to do what God requires of them to have his blessing. Could that be the story? And I want to just say to all of you Republican people out here, I'm Republican, but I'm not stupid. I voted for Donald Trump since 2016. I voted for Donald Trump in all the primaries. I've never missed one. However, I did not vote for war with Iran. I I'm very keen about geopolitics.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted the eggs to go down from being $6 a dozen. I remember there were eggs on sale at the Lidl up in College Park. I call it College Dark because they will get your ass to University of Maryland if you're black after dark if you're not careful. And I got eggs for 79 cents a dozen just 2 years ago. And the price was so good, I bought 12 dozen eggs. And I spent about $11. Today, in certain places, that could get me 2 dozen eggs. I voted for shit to go back to eggs being affordable, as if all the chickens went on strike because there were no illegals to give them that arsenic-infused feed that they get. I want gas to be affordable. A lot of places in this country don't have public transit. People, they live because they have a car.
Right.
This was set up by the oligarchs to force people to buy petroleum and cars. But if the gas is $10 a gallon, it's going to put a lot of people's asses out of work. A lot of people aren't going to be able to take care of their heating and cooling costs. I voted for that. I voted for anywhere from 11 to 20 million people's asses to go the hell back where they came from. I did not vote for a fake holy war against Iran, especially when Iran finally gets a reformist government that's trying to pull back from the bullshit that some of their leadership has been on, where they're not just killing every woman that doesn't have a hijab on their head.
Right.
They're finally getting some of what people say they want. Freedom for women, civil society, rule of law. And then in the middle of the agreement, in the middle of the discussion for peace, you already plan to wage war on these people. You had Tulsi Gabbard, and this is one thing I do know. There are a couple of people, we may as well, we could do a list of people who aren't going to be white a few weeks from now if they don't start supporting this stupid ass war.
Mm-hmm.
Fucker Carlson, that's what I call him. He's not going to be white if he keeps mouthing off talking about the war between Iran and Israel. And I actually agree with him. What's that fat, greasy dude?
Jason Whitlock.
Shitlock.
Shitlock, yeah.
Jason Shitlock. He's not going to be an acceptable, morbidly overweight black talking head. He's going to lose a lot of white friends. I mean, you need white friends in America, or so we have been taught to believe. And last but not least, Tulsi Gabbard. You've fallen a long way, baby. You're going to lose your white status harder than what's that white boy that went over to Russia? You would know because you're in the... Huh?
Snowden?
Yeah. Snow cum.
Yeah, him.
Okay, him. So, you lost your white status. Gabby Tulsi, I know you're Indian. You and Nikki Haley are like these light-skinned Indians that get to pass yourselves off as white. Well, if you keep mouthing off at these people talking about Iran not having weapons of mass destruction, of which I agree with you, they don't.
Correct.
Proof of that is all that bombing of Israel, and you're taking a building at a time. I mean, if you had a weapon of mass destruction, you could do a block. Just saying. If they had weapons of mass destruction, they haven't used them, and they seem to not be interested in using them. So, but Tulsi Gabbard, you used to be a white girl. It's going to be hard being black, okay? And this is what down south, what's it, my white woman friend here, Sister Aja, in Louisiana, they call it tar brushing.
Yes.
When you make somebody black and you strip them of their white status. Well, Tulsi Gabbard, bitch, you can lose all of that, and with that fucked up Hindu religion you have, all of a sudden the white evangelicals who hate every religion that's not just like Paula White, and you're not talking about prosperity and shit, and how God's going to give you 3 orgasms and a big house and a car, and you got an ugly wife with enough hair bigger than the old World Trade Center. Those kind of people all of a sudden remember Hindus kill Christians. Hindus worship like 300 million gods. Hindus have a caste system. You've
Yes,
been
they
getting a
do.
break a long time. You messing with the wrong group of people, telling the truth. I mean, you ain't a black American. As much as people hate us, they know if you get a real black American, they just might tell the truth. That's why they have a history of assassination, mass incarceration, drugs, liquor store in every corner, lots of nigger preachers. We talk about you, Daryl Scott, a lying ass black preacher. I've been talking to you on Twitter, and nigga, you lying between your teeth. And Jesus Christ, the God of the Bible, isn't into lies or liars. That's the devil's work. A Khazarian isn't a Hebrew.
Correct.
Even if they own Hebrew national, even if they occupy land that was once ruled by Hebrews, even as you kill mixed descendants of Hebrews, does not make you a Hebrew. You're a Khazarian. You had an 8th century conversion to Judaism, and your ass isn't in the Bible. You guys were called Scythians. You were seen as the Greeks said, barbaroi. We get the word barbarian from barbaroi. Just saying, don't blame me. And if you say the Greeks are whites, and it's not racist for me to say, you're descendants of what people call barbarians. The Scythians were violent, slave trading, drinking, whoring, very terrible people. In the Bible, even in your Hebrew Old Testament, didn't have nice stuff to say about the Scythians. In fact, when they want to talk about low-down people, the Scythians were at the bottom of the barrel. Not the Ethiopians, but the Scythians. White being cool is a recent sociological historical fabrication and invention.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying. You can get mad at me, but now, and as for the illegals, go the fuck home. If you need to wave that flag, you need to wave it where that shit's official. That's like me holding up a house key to another house and in someone else's house as if that's the key to the door.
Right.
You shouldn't be allowed to parade anybody else's flag. I've traveled all over the world. I have always avoided putting the American flag out. Do everything I can not to offend people, because a lot of folks really don't like the United States. There are a lot of people who don't like the United States. They don't. They hate the United States. And they don't have a problem with expressing it. So I don't flaunt being American when I travel. I travel, and
No.
if you can tell I'm an American, cool. But I'm from the United States. They're really nasty, rude tourists that travel, and they got the big ass cameras and all the stuff, and they make people know that they're from America. They're the ones that get robbed, beaten, kidnapped, and folks can't stand them.
That's true.
Now, I'm going to give you guys 2 minutes, and I'll be right back. So go ahead. Kick it off, Sister Aja. Your turn.
Well, thank you, Dr. Short. And thank you, Mr. Ford, for having me on. But what Dr. Short said is true. I was in the military, and I remember my first time going over to England, and you can tell they're American tourists because they're wearing USA T-shirts, and they just looked awkward. And I'm like, why? You don't have to tell everybody where you're from. Even when I deployed to the Middle East, and where I was able to go downtown in the country, and I saw people, not only just a few Americans, but people from different parts of Europe. They were wearing all, proud American, and I'm from England, the Union Jack flag and stuff. I'm like, That's why you, like Dr. Short said, that's why you get robbed. And that's why you get targeted. And it's the funniest, silliest thing I've ever seen, where I live in California and, you know, maybe I don't even see tourists from like Japan or China or, you know, wearing, you know, we're the Korean or Japanese flag t-shirts. You know, it's like, stop trying to stand out and thinking that you're better than anybody. You're in a different country to learn. And you look like a colonizer, like you just want to take over it, like you took over other parts of the world.
Dr. Haja, let me ask you, I know Dr. Short gave us some brief history on these people and what is potentially about to happen. How do we, I'm going to ask you, and you could give us some history and some background in more detail. How did we get here?
We got here by policy when, you know, okay, so my background, I am a veteran. I served in the U.S. Air Force. My grandfather actually taught me a lot. He served in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. He was Air Force. He was retired Chief Master Sergeant. So learning from him, because he did a lot of time in the Middle East. And it's just been policies that where, you know, Israel, the state of Israel was founded in 1948. Because after the Holocaust and the liberation of the Jews, a lot of people didn't want them. I mean, we didn't even accept them here in the United States, and other places said no. So they carved out Israel, where they started the state of Israel, and they kicked out briefly. It's a brief history. It's very in depth. I know Dr. Short's very good at that. I'm still learning. Where they carved out a piece of the land and said, this is where you're going to go. The state of Israel in 1948. But keep in mind, Palestinians were already there. And the whole entire thing of, like Dr. Short just mentioned, these were converts. They were not the line of David and Abraham. These are people that converted to Judaism long time ago in Eastern Europe. I forgot what king it was, Dr. Short, that had to make that decision because Christians and Muslims were fighting. Which king was it where he...
I don't, but people can look it up. Look up Khazaria.
Yeah, Khazarian.
Khazaria's the kingdom. It's one of their kings. He had to choose Buddhism, Christianity, or Islam. Which religion would be the best for his people? I'm sorry, Judaism, Christianity, or Islam. And he picked Judaism, and the people did mass conversions. And it's okay. You're Jewish. You converted. Not a problem. Not a problem. But there's a difference between the people that are in Judea, Samaria, all the places that you'll read about in the Hebrew Bible and the New Testament. And these people are like 1,000 miles away. They're not the exact same people. They're not Jacob's children. They're not the people that are with Moses. It's a different group of people who converted to Judaism, which was their right. So nobody's saying folks aren't Jewish. We're only saying that in terms of the lineage,
correct,
these people, most of them, have practically nothing to do with this history.
No, they don't. And that's been the biggest lie, and especially here in the United States with politicians, because a lot of these politicians like Ted Cruz, Tel Aviv Cruz, he's owned by AIPAC. And AIPAC is a PAC, is a foundation that gives a lot of money to the politicians who are their puppets to be their mouthpieces. So if you say anything or criticize about Israel or Jews, they automatically label you anti-Semitic. Well, how in the hell can and I use this as an example, and this is just me. You have like Ilhan Omar. She is Semitic. So she says something about Jews. She is not anti-Semitic.
She's not Semitic. Ilhan Omar is Somali. Somali.
I'm sorry, not Ilhan Omar. It's another one.
You mean Rashida Tlaib?
Yeah, that one.
Okay.
That
Yeah, Somalis. No, just so we're clear, Somalis are Cushitic people. They're Cushites. Okay. Not that they're not in some way related, going all the way back, but that's a different language, a different language group. Just so when you hear us, because they hear a cuss word or two, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about. No. I know a hell of a lot what I'm talking about. However, cussing punctuates stuff that's sort of annoying to listen to sometimes. So she's a Cushitic. They're Cushitic languages like Oromo and Somali that are large language groups in the Horn of Africa and other places. But the Semitic people, like in Ethiopia, some people are Semitic. Like the Amhara are Semitic. The Tigrayans are Semitic. The Oromo are Cushitic. The Somali are Cushitic. Just saying, it's got to be what it is. So we're always going to do our best to tell you exactly what's factual because we're talking about controversial stuff. And what you've heard is what these people, God's chosen people, as we said, GCP, and that's their land. And I mean, and people have to, there's a curse in the Bible. God will bless those that bless Abraham, and he'll curse those that curse Abraham. So basically, I'm on the hook. Whatever a Hebrew does, I better go for it or God's going to get me. I mean, it's the greatest blackmail shakedown of all times. So in other words, if they decide to go in and kill every single solitary person in Iran, Pakistan, Syria, Jordan, Egypt, if I in any way don't support it, God's going to get me. Well, if that's true, where the hell does this thou shalt not kill business come in? Thou shalt not steal business come from? Thou shalt not covet. You covet water from the Litani River in Lebanon. You covet southern Lebanon. You covet the Sheba farms in the Golan Heights. And you covet Gaza. You covet everything. And you have a greater Israel where you want a piece of Turkey, Saudi Arabia. You want the east bank of the Nile River. You got this huge thing. You're going to get a big piece of Iraq. You're going to get a piece of Syria. You're going to get almost everything. And God says, well, what do you do with the 40, 50, 60 million people? By the way, 60 is 10 times 6. If 6 million dead people is bad, what are you going to do about the 60? Where are they going to go? Where are they going to live? But then again, you don't really care. So
as long as you bomb them, you don't care.
No, but if you're bombing and starving, then you're ultimately genociding them. So wait a minute. You've been the victim of genocide and displacement. All this, I get you. I hear you.
In history.
But now, because white people that you identify as white, because you're from Europe, you're Semitic for, propaganda purposes, because you're bombing the hell out of Semitic people. Correct. And they don't get to say they're Semitic. And killing them in the tens of thousands isn't anti-Semitism, but asking a question, is it Correct. Right to kill people, even children, and bomb hospitals and so forth, and dance in the graves of children?
It's starving them.
It's anti-Semitic. Huh. And God gave people the land, so people say. Well, what were the terms of the agreement? and were there terms for the land to be rescinded if you violated the agreement? And if the Hebrews violated their agreement with Jehovah God, Yahweh God, whatever thing you want to call it, the I am, then how can another group of people who've converted to the religion of the Hebrews pick up on a promise that had been revoked of another group of people? That's like me getting the house of someone who defaulted on a mortgage, thinking I had the right to squat there because I
Right.
took their name.
Correct.
Now, maybe I could have the same habits and customs as the person that got evicted and got put out because they couldn't make the mortgage payments, but I wouldn't have standing in any court to be a rightful possessor there, although they do have things like squatters' rights. But being a squatter is a recognition that you weren't the original owner. You have moved into a space in which nobody's there, but they couldn't do that because there were hundreds of thousands of people who were described as Negroes.
Correct.
I don't know. I didn't make them do it. I didn't make Chaim Weizmann and these other people that had this. I didn't make anyone call those people Negroes. I'm not saying they are Negroes, but I'm saying that the people who made this agreement, this Balfour Declaration and the Sykes-Picot treaties and all this stuff, these folks were calling them Negroes. Now, mind you, what were you doing to Negroes back in 1916, 17, 18, 19? Anybody that was Negro, for the most part in the world, was under your thumb. You were taking their land, resources, and labor. And one way, either you were doing it through slavery, forced labor, something, apartheid, proto-apartheid, Jim Crow segregation. If you were a Negro, whatever happened to you was your problem. And who was doing this? It was called the La Mission Civilisatrice in French. Oscar Wilde called it the white man's burden to civilize the Christianizing mission of benighted Africa and these people, or as Edward Saidi, the Middle Eastern scholar, called Orientalism, where you exoticize these people and that they're not quite up to snuff. All right, you basically, even in how you talked about it, you're taking it, and we can just go further back and just say there's a fundamental contradiction in this whole thing that we call Zionism. Number one, Theodor Herzl, if I'm correct, he's Austrian, not Palestinian, not Jordani, not what's called Lebanese. He's not a Maronite Christian. He's not a Bedouin. He's not a Druze. He's not an Alawite. This guy is in Austria, right?
He's white.
And what these people in Zionism were saying was that the GCPs were a white European people. Well, if you're white and European, why are you in Northeast Africa, which got renamed between 1916 and 1919, all of a sudden started being called the Middle East? The middle of what? It's in the middle of Africa and Asia. Just saying. Well, what's the largest group of people in Africa? Black people, Bantus, who call them Negroes.
Yes.
I'm not saying that Arabs are necessarily Negroes, but some Arabs are Negroes because there are lots of Arabic-speaking people who are shades of brown and some even black. Fact, for over 1,000 years, before there was a Jewish state of Israel, as it describes itself. So, we're not picking on a soul, we're only looking at the strangeness that in the 1880s, thereabout, there became this movement because there was repression of Jewish people in France, the Dreyfus Affair. There were pogroms in Poland, which was under the Russian Tsar, and there were mobs that were killing and lynching Jewish people. Terrible, it's wrong, I don't like it. I even have lineage of Ashkenazi Jews, so I'm not talking about people I have no connection, have a biological connection to, was co-raised by Ashkenazi Ukrainian Jews. There's no hate here. Just talking. So these people who were being persecuted in Europe had a very unpopular idea of going to the Middle East. But even before, almost 100 years before Theodor Herzl came up with his idea for Zionism, Napoleon Bonaparte, supposedly in my family. This is weird. It's crazy being black. Napoleon Bonaparte, during his Egyptian campaign, when he took the city of Accra, that is a city that is in modern-day Israel, he started talking about Jews moving and creating a Jewish-controlled area, a homeland for Jews, not so much because Napoleon loves Jews, but because Napoleon had ambitions for a canal to connect the Mediterranean with the Red Sea, where the French Empire could have access to trading in the East. This has been a conflict and an interest of European people going back to the Crusades since the fall of Constantinople to the Turks in the 1450s, and even before the Crusades, of wanting to economically dominate that rich trade route, which is the nexus of Africa, Asia, and Europe. And let us remember what's between the Mediterranean and and the Red Sea, the Suez Canal. There was a canal between the Mediterranean and the Red Sea that the Egyptians had long ago, so it wasn't a new idea. But for the Europeans who finally had their chance to be the dominant people on the world stage, they wanted to build a canal. And let us remember that the Suez Canal was completed at the cost of over 100,000 Egyptian lives. And it was completed late 1860s, early 1870s, started by the French. The French ran out of money. The English, doing all their little manipulation, used the corruption and the fraud and the economic weakness of the Turkish oligarchy and their Khedive king, got them under the British protectorate. Egypt became, and they got the Suez Canal. But the Suez Canal is completed literally no more within the period of time that the Zionist movement was created. And it's interesting where the Zionists ultimately got the biggest amount of support to have a Zionist state in the Middle East came from England, which controlled the Suez Canal, with the French being minor partners. I'm just saying. So Israel, aside from its religious connection, its geopolitical strategic location, Israel, is the linchpin for the British Empire, which was the largest, most important economic and political empire in the world up until the end of the Second World War, where it was superseded by the United States. And in fact, after the Second World War in 1956, when Gamal Abdel Nasser, who was the head of state in Egypt, nationalized the Suez Canal, England, France, and Israel attacked Egypt to try to retake the Suez Canal. And Israel therefore was a equal partner in the colonial project of controlling that major asset called the Suez Canal, which is a major economic hub. If you recall back in 2020, 2021,
Yeah.
when the Evergreen container ship crashed and trade was jacked up for weeks because a ship got stuck in the Suez Canal. These canals, whether it's the Panama Canal or the Suez Canal, these are incredibly important economic trade routes. Egypt, as a country, as a society, gets a disproportionate amount of its money just from controlling the Suez Canal. Panama survives off of the Panama Canal, even if they produce nothing, just charging fees. So, creating a white controlled bastion near the Suez Canal with well armed people who, by the way, are disproportionately, at a certain point, connected in some way to the British, Americans, or French, although there were Germans and Russians and others. But where did the money come from? A lot of the money for people to build up Israel, or what became Israel, came from the Rothschild family,
Yes.
a wealthy GCP banking family. By the way, the same banking family that got rich destroying whose military and imperial career?
Correct.
Napoleon. Just saying. So, this thing, when people talk about God and the Holy Land, okay, I got that. But let's deal with the money, the power, the control. Israel exists to facilitate the hegemony or the dominant economic, social, political, and military power of the white Western European states, or the Anglo-American empire with its white European proxies. That's exactly what it is. And by the way, I didn't say that people shouldn't have some place to go when they're persecuted. We're not saying that. I would never say that. But from the 1880s forward, people began to move to what we now call as Israel. And the majority of the people, all the way up until after the Second World War, the majority of the people were what you would call Arabs, Bedouins. In fact, there began to be a clash in the 1920s because the Balfour Declaration, which recognized by the British government as a loose promise of a homeland for Jewish people, that occurred after the First World War, and it came at the betrayal of all the Arabs that had fought the Turks for the British and the French. Fact. So, what happens? Let's be honest about what happens. The immigration and the money from wealthy people who support the mission to have a Jewish homeland began to send people there, and initially they were well received by the indigenous people in what's called Israel today. It's by the late 1920s, 1930s, definitely by the middle 1930s, these people began to fight when they realized that there's a plan. People like a guy with the last name Jabotinsky, their whole thing was, we don't want equality. We don't want to just be here. We want to completely control, and we want these other people gone. We don't want to live. We don't want to coexist. We don't want to do that. We want all of it. It's all ours, and they've got to get out. And so these people who had money bought land, a lot of the land that was owned in what's now Israel or Palestine, as it used to be called, were
Right.
absentee landlords that were in Cairo and Istanbul. Remember, Britain defeated the Ottoman Empire, aka the Turks, in 1917 when General Allenby and them were able, with that homosexual by the name of T.E. Lawrence, aka Lawrence of Arabia, when they were able with the Arabs through guerrilla warfare and otherwise to take Jerusalem, these people began to use their influence in the capitals of Europe and other places to get this
Yeah.
land. And there's another side to it. These people shopped a global power that would back them to get this land. They went to the Kaiser Wilhelm, the last king of Germany. They went to the British government. And what these people basically said is, if you want to beat the Germans, because the English and French were exhausted getting their butts kicked by the Germans, that happened in World War II as well, then you got to get the Americans in. And the people, Zionists, worked. In fact, there are all kinds of things like the sinking of the Lusitania and other things that brought America into the war. And depending on whose material you're reading, it would appear as if some quite unusual historic things happened, like civilians being put on ships that had weapons of war that they were warned to stay off of. And the Lusitania sinking brought America into the war. Following America coming into the war, the Balfour Declaration moved forward. Now, let's just move, because this is anything, anybody can look this stuff up. It's not hard. We're just trying to give a background. Once they began to come in after the First World War ended, they began to wage economic warfare. I'm talking about the Jewish people. Began to allow Arabs to work for them, but they would not do business or would not, they would buy land, but they would never sell land. And they were using their access to foreign capital and richer countries to buy out everything. And once these people recognize they're going to use money from another country to erase us in our own land, because they've got this money, they've got the Rothschilds, they've got these people giving and doing all this stuff, they began to fight, and there's a lot of fighting and killing that went on between Jews and Arabs in the 1930s, and that thing dragged for years. Thousands of people injured, hundreds of people killed, large numbers of people put in jail. The British government sided with the Jewish people against the Palestinians. And the only reason that they didn't continue to have more of these European Jews come to Israel was the coming of the Second World War. Right? Because Hitler comes to power in 1933, 32,
Yes.
33. The fight between Palestinians and Jews coincides around the same time that Hitler and them are doing their stuff with the Nuremberg laws and oppressing Jews in Europe. Just saying. And more or less by 1938, the year of Kristallnacht, more or less the British, through home demolitions, mass incarcerations, massacres, shootings, killings, the brutalizing, racial profile, if you want to call it, of the Palestinians, did you get a pacification where the leaders would run out, this, that, and the other. In fact, one of the big leaders of the Palestinians was the Mufti al-Husseini. Now, what's interesting is that at the same time that Hitler came to power, there's a thing called the WZO, the World Zionist Organization.
Yes.
They did not like Hitler. They knew about his book. They had major concerns, although there are many wealthy, important people who happen to be Jewish, nominally. Jewish in terms of their family, but not their religion. They are assimilated into various European societies. These people began to say, we've got to do something about this Hitler person. So they organized a worldwide boycott against Hitler. If you look it up, it's called Judea Declares War on Germany. In fact, preemptively, before Hitler really started getting down, they declared war. Not saying that Hitler's book isn't atrocious, Mein Kampf, he didn't like him, it's true. So they got an agreement between Hitler and Nazi Germany and the Zionists. And it's called the Transfer Agreement, or the Havara Agreement, where what the Germans said is that, you know what, we hate Jews so much, but you know what, you need somewhere to go. Why not go to Palestine? Here's the deal. We're going to help you cash out all your possessions, sell your house, your furniture, everything, and we're going to convert that into cash and into equipment for you to start a new life in Palestine.
Correct.
Tens of thousands, somewhere between 50 to 75,000 German Jews, with the help of Nazi Germany, were able to set up new lives in Palestine. In fact, they became the spear tip of the movement to really just take control and really gain dominance in Palestine for Jewish people. And we're going to do some more. Hitler kept his word until the Germans were unable to help Jewish people move to Palestine. Jew-hating, Jew-gassing, Jew-killing Hitler did everything within his agreement with the World Zionist Organization to help Jewish people create new lives for themselves in Israel, which means that they weren't all tattooed and gassed and sent to concentration camps. That's not exactly. So if you wanted to get the fuck out of Germany, if you were going to Palestine, we'll help. In fact, Hitler's a lot more decent towards Jews than white America was when it was telling black people to go back to Africa. We don't want to pay for it. Get out. We hate you. But it's your fault, and you make it happen.
Correct.
Even Hitler didn't do that. If you're white and you're listening, y'all treat us worse than Hitler did when he made an agreement with Jews. As hard as that is to believe. I'm just saying. Now, so you get all of these people going to Israel. The Palestinians are upset. You beat them up. You bombed them between the 30s up until like the late 30s. And by the way, you kick out the Mufti of Jerusalem, the spiritual leader of Palestinians and Muslims, because of Jerusalem, and he's like the sort of like a pope or a bishop for Jerusalem. And you have a movement throughout the Middle East. In Turkey, you have Mustafa Kemal. You had people all over the Middle East that did not want the French or the English telling them what the hell to do. They all looked to Mussolini and Hitler and to fascism, Nazism, as a way to free themselves. So there's this combination of socialism, fascism that was very, very popular throughout the Middle East and North Africa. I'm just saying. Now, once the British got into war with the Germans over Poland in September 1939, the British recognized, because they already knew, and we're going to take this to Iran, the British had already figured out in the early 1900s that the key to world economic power would be petroleum, not coal. Coal was the major fuel for ships and homes and a range of things. The English were pioneers at using petroleum for their ships, for their navies, for their industries. In fact, they had been using palm oil from Nigeria and from West Africa, using oil in the Industrial Revolution's late stages. So that's this 1908. The British had their Anglo-Iranian oil company somewhere in there, and they started like ripping the people off for their oil in 1908. So understand in 1939, 31 years later, as you had motor cars, the use of cars exploded between 1908 and 1939, and tanks and everything else. In fact, World War II was driven by oil, by petroleum. Your planes, your bombers, all of that, you need oil. Your ships need diesel fuel. Then what happens? The British say, oh my God, these sand niggers are sitting on top of all the oil. If these sand niggers get with the Nazis, they'll cut off our spigot. On top of that, if they pitch a bitch, they'll cut the Suez Canal. We'll be cut off from our main economic prize, which was the Indian subcontinent, which used to be one, the Dominion of India, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bhutan, East and West Pakistan, and then India was the jewel of the British Empire. A guaranteed market for their goods, lots of cheap labor, and other things. So how are you going to hold on to India if you've got to wade through all these angry Arabs and risk your main artery, and you don't want to ship stuff all the way around the Horn of Africa, the Cape of Good Hope, right? We've had this issue within recent times about the transportation of goods being messed up, and the longer it takes and it costs more to ship something all the way around Africa versus going through the Suez Canal. It takes time and money and so forth. I mean, it costs more. So here we go. The British say, you know what? We got to cut these Jews back because they got the Arabs pissed off. The Palestinians had been lobbying all over with the Arabs and Muslims all over about what was happening with them. Although they didn't always get support from everyone, they got some. The British cut allowing Jews to go to Israel, even though they knew all about Hitler's hatred of Jews. They had information about folks wanting to kill off Jews. They knew. These devils knew. But mind you, these Zionists and these GCPs love English and Americans and hate people who never gassed them, tattooed them, or put them in concentration camps. We're the bad guys. Remember that. That's some Stockholm Syndrome up the ass, all the way. I mean, Diddy level. Okay, now, so these people are stuck in Europe. The rich elite people, like Queen Elizabeth's father and the other people, the kings and the royalty of England, they supported the Nazis. Nazism was very popular.
Yes.
Nazism was big. Hating Jews was big. Jewish people were under what we could call, I don't know, kike crow.
Kike crow.
Yes. Where they had a thing called restrictions, where Jewish people couldn't have certain jobs, couldn't be in certain clubs, couldn't go to certain beaches, couldn't rent. They were segregated.
Well, her husband, Queen Elizabeth's husband, his family, his sister, and I guess his brother-in-law, they were Nazis, and they were killed in that plane crash.
Yeah, but they were Nazis. The royal family of the royal family of Great Britain were very much pro-Hitler and pro-Nazi. as where I would
Yes.
say most white people around the world believed in the supremacy of whiteness. This isn't unusual. This is what we've been dealing with all these years. And they believe it right now. So, what happens, they cut off the ability of Jews to come to the Middle East, and that's how a lot of Jews got stuck in Europe. And by the way, the Zionists were willing to help people survive the Holocaust, provided they were willing to go to Palestine. Remember, these European Jews, they're German, they're Austrian, they're Swedish, they're French, they're Bulgarian, they're Czech, they're Spanish, they're Portuguese, they're Italian. They don't want to go and live in this. What would they go there for? The country? I mean, it was okay, but, right? Now let's
Correct.
go back a little and remind people something. That under Napoleon and others, they had what's called the Jewish emancipation. It sounds like one thing, but let me break it down to what it was. Jewish emancipation was liberating Jewish people from having to be under oppressive rabbinic laws, the same way the Israelis complain about the Shia and how women are treated in Iran. Jewish people used to be ruled by their rabbis who could be like coon pastors or these white megachurch slavers who want all your money and boss you around and tell you what to do. Jewish people used to have the same way. In India, you've got a civil Indian code, you've got an Islamic code. Depending on who you are, you're governed by the law that your religion subscribes to. This change is called the emancipation of the Jews, which means Jewish people began to enjoy life on a real good level at the same time, or around the same time that this so-called Zionist movement began to emerge. So there are two different pools. There's a pull towards assimilating and staying in Europe where people are from, and a minority group that was super unpopular that was saying, let's go to Palestine, sort of like your dumb fuck Pan-Africanists who are talking about, let's all go to Africa. And some of them are very dumb, I'm sorry. And no, I'm not saying that Africa isn't okay to live in. If you got money, Africa is one of the best places you could ever be. If you're struggling here, you're going to struggle in Africa. You got to have money to make it in Africa, which is why I'm saying getting the Havar agreement. These people said, we're not going to send you. You Jews have money. We're going to help you cash out and live good lives in Palestine as long as you go to hell away. We don't have to see you, little pointed ass noses and shit anymore. Get out. As if they could talk. So, now you get the Second World War. It's raging. You've got the Jewish people who still don't have their state. They have different gangs, Haganah, Stern Gang. There's some others, forgive me, but I mentioned two of them. These folks are engaged in terrorism against the British, although the British initially armed and says, look, we can help you fight the Germans and we'll do this, that, and the other. And at the same time, the Stern Gang, Haganah, and there's another one, the Levy. These people were also, in particular the Stern Gang, tried to have a conversation with Hitler. Hitler, if you win, can we have a Jewish homeland? Believe it or not, at the height of Jewish people getting gassed and killed, they could go back and get an audience and say, hey, how Hitler? Hi, Hitler. Hey, man, I'm the kike you don't like that you kicked out. But you know what? I don't want to come back. If you take over the world, can we Jews just have some place where we can kick Arabs in the ass and be by ourselves? And I don't think that really kind of took off. But at the same time, they were trying to get Hitler's help. The Mufti, al-Husseini, the spiritual leader of the Palestinians, was up trying to meet with Hitler to try, hey man, we got all these yarmulke wearing assholes taking all our shit, man. And I heard how you just want to gas all of them, like take them all out. Man, I really think you're the greatest of all time. Could you help us, like, kill a few Jews so we can have a little bit of sand dunes to ourselves?
Uh-huh.
I don't think Hitler really helped him, but Husseini said, you know what? I'm going to show you how useful I am. I'm going to help you kill Christians in the
Yeah.
Balkans. So they were down in Yugoslavia just killing everybody's ass. They were so damn violent until it was making Nazis need air sickness bags and shit. I thought I hated people till I met these Arabs. Anyway, this was everywhere. And you'll see the same trend that there were people that were with the Japanese, Asian independence, Indonesia, Vietnam, all of the Asian countries that had been colonized by the Europeans got a boost. Malaysia too, from the Japanese kicking the shit out of the European people between 1940 and 1944 until the Empire of Japan, their co-prosperity spear shit went down with the big bomb blast. White folk blast the hell out of them for messing with their shit. But Indonesia got independent by 49. India got its independence in 47. All of these different countries were getting their independence. North Vietnam, well, the French had a fight in Vietnam. Ultimately, by the middle 50s, the French had to get the hell out. So by 1954, you had a North and South Vietnam after Dien Bien Phu. You had the situation with Malaysia. They had a little insurgency there. By the way, all the gangs where the black people are killing each other here and in Africa was mastered by a guy named Kitson, who was teaching people how to get different people who are black and brown to like kill each other for the purposes of white power. They pioneered that stuff initially in Malaysia, and then they took it to Kenya, and of course it's been brought to America, and you can see that in our stupid bombed out ass communities in America. But I'm just trying to say to you, people who want to be liberated from England and France and Portugal and everywhere else saw the fascists, or saw the Japanese fascism, German fascism, not so much Italian fascism. They saw that as perhaps a way to get a different life. Now, we all know what happens. He couldn't run, he couldn't hide. Hitler and this bitch committed suicide, right? That was in April 1945. Then you had all these Jews who nobody tried to save. That includes American Jewry, could have done a lot more. But the people are more interested in trying to shore up themselves here in American life and didn't want to talk about anti-Semitism. There's a film that you can watch called A Gentleman's Agreement. I think it won an Academy Award in the late 1940s. When the Holocaust was going on, very few white American Jews went all out to save the people that were in Europe. Some did, but hell no, not enough. And by the way, when the Jewish people were complaining about Hitler, black Americans stood with them. Nobody said, oh, well, Hitler's cool, y'all don't like us, screw you. No. They supported. So Rabbi Wise, look him up, and other people, they didn't have a problem. In fact, Jewish teachers and professors who couldn't get jobs at white schools all ended up at HBCUs and black high schools and black hospitals where whites wouldn't let Jewish doctors practice. The next time you hear how anti-Semitic black Americans are supposed to be, history paints a completely different picture, and it's really a different picture when you consider that some of the people, very important people like Mr. Haym Solomon, the lead financier of the American Revolution, was the largest black slave trader in the 13 colonies. Judah P. Benjamin was a financier and the Vice President of the Confederate States of America, he was Jewish. And I can do more of this, and I'm not trying to make anybody worse than anyone else. I'm simply saying, people, it's a lie that there's some black anti-Jewish thing. Instead, there's been some anti-black stuff in which a lot of people who identify as white or trying to make it to be white have gotten on that bandwagon. Irish, Italians, Polish, and yes, some Jews too. All right.
And may I add, even the Hispanic and Latinos.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well,
The Mexicans, even them,
yeah, all the white wannabes have done this. Asians too. So the unmodeled minorities, all of them have gotten at some point help and assistance from black Americans. Have always put a dagger in our back and curse us and run after white people until something really bad happens. Let me just say this to you. Let me just give you guys an announcement. If this war blows up between Iran and Israel, and the conversation goes out, my child's not going to die for Jews, and white folks keep it real. When you get them all, they will tell you what they really feel. You're going to find a whole bunch of people whose names end in vowels and other things talking to you. Like, I thought you hated me. You hate affirmative action. You don't want me to get scholarships. You don't want... Don't be surprised at who you don't see coming to churches and everything else to talk about how close we are and how we need to work together. Just remember that. I'm not blaming all. I'm not saying everybody. It's the same way. I have relatives, ancestors, some Jewish, cool. Some Jews, slaveholders. I'm saying, shit, y'all shouldn't have fucking done it if you didn't want people to talk about it. I didn't say everybody, but I said some. And some, I don't know, 5%, 10%, I don't know, but it happened. And who dominated out of Charleston? The largest community outside of New York City where slave trading was done, city of Charleston, which has a huge synagogue who dominated in Charleston, the Jewish community. And Savannah too, I got family from both cities. And New York, a major slave trading center, Wall Street, the stocks and bonds, trading in black people, who were strong in terms of shipping and all of that, doing the insurance underwriting. I didn't say only, but your fingers in the pie, you catch hell when you die. So, now let's go back. So, we're explaining what happened. Now the war is over. World War II is over, and all this stuff comes out about people being gassed and people making paintings and playing with skulls and all this stuff, the Nuremberg trials, and the American Jewish Mafia and others, Haganah, Levy, the Stern Gang, all these people who think the British are going to let these folks just come, let all the Jewish people out of Europe and come to Palestine. And a lot of folks who've been traumatized by the Nazis, I would go just about anywhere after that. The British, who don't want to anger their protectorate states, places like Egypt. The French, who don't want to piss off the people in Lebanon. I think Lebanon got its independence in 1945. You've got all this Arab nationalism everywhere. Because in order to fight the Germans, everyone was talking about freedom, democracy, self-determination. They even told black people, we're fighting the evils of fascism, racism, and join the United States military, of which 1 million or more black Americans did, only to find you come back and you still can't vote, you can't do this, you can't do it. It's a lie. The Second World War kicked off a fervor for independence and freedom for all kinds of people that had been under the white, hateful, Nazi, apartheid, racist, colonial jackboot of so-called white Western Christian civilization, if there ever was such a thing. I hope I find it. So, here we have it. These people who've now been through the horrors of the Nazis, who did just kill, I don't know how many Jewish people, but they killed them as many as they could. There were millions in Poland, and when the war ended, there weren't so many millions. So I don't know if it's 2, 3, maybe it's 8 million Jews got killed. I can't say for certain it's 6. I can't tell you it's not 8. I can't tell you it's not 7. But it's millions, so it's definitely not 1 million. It's definitely not 2. You have like 4 million, 5 million Poles in Poland. So they killed a huge number of Jews. I don't know if you can get the perfect 666. I don't know, they got this thing about this 6. But they killed millions and millions, and not just Jews. Some 30 million Russians died, 1.7 million Yugoslavs died. Lots of people got killed in the Second World War. At least 30 million Russians died. At least 25 million Chinese died, if not more. Between Russia and China, maybe 60 million people died. Okay? These people who had been traumatized by war wanted to get over there, and the British trying to please their people. You got this Arab nationalism. Remember, Gamal Abdel Nasser, who's in the Young Officers Movement, yet Young Officers Movements in other places, people taking stuff. The British want to keep everything working, and they're running an empire. And you don't want to lose your empire over a couple of Jews and somebody, you rescued them too soon for them to not be killed, so you didn't have to worry about them. And Canada, America, and Britain refused to let Hitler or others send Jews to America, Britain, or Canada. Nobody wanted these people. There was an opportunity to save 2 million of them, and the Roosevelt administration gave thumbs down to Jews. Not a black man. Nobody looks like me did this to Jews, but you couldn't believe that the way they treat black folks in Israel. I said it. Now, one more piece and then we're done. So the Jewish people who had gotten military training to defend the Suez Canal and to fight to defend Israel from a German invasion, because at one point the Africa Corps, led by the German genius, military genius Erwin Rommel, got very close to being in a position where they could have taken Egypt out of the war, but they got beaten by Montgomery at El Alamein, 1942. But these Jewish people began to fight against the British government that was trying to prevent Jewish people from coming to Israel. And they engaged in all kinds of terrorism, killing, massacres, bombings, all kinds of stuff. The crowning event is the bombing of the King David Hotel, 90 plus people killed. They blew up, they bombed and did all kinds of stuff. Yes, they did. Ultimately, the United Nations in 1948, with all the machinations and bribes and stuff given, decided to partition, to give a significant part of what was Palestine to the Jews who were big in Haifa and some of these other places, and let the Palestinians have their half. There was never going to be a sharing. The Israelis began mass killing Palestinians all over the place. There were dozens and dozens of massacres. As many as 20,000 Palestinians were butchered. Peaceful people who had gotten along with their Jewish neighbors that got killed anyway. Deir Yassin is one. I mean, look it up. This isn't a history that you can't find. And those people fled. And God, figure if you're going to
throw grenades. The Arab population wasn't well armed. I mean, they're up against people with military training and all who are coming in, who had weapons smuggled from America, from the Jewish mafia, and other people were getting all kinds of weapons in it for these people to go to war. And their kibbutzes were basically like little forts. It was based on the forts that you put up in the Indian Territory in America. Out west, you put a stockade up, you set up a fortress so you can be in someone else's space. And if they try to expel you, you're going to cost them a couple of lives trying to move you out. So, 750,000 Palestinians got displaced. And you have the state of Israel. And the descendants of these displaced Palestinians are still in Lebanon, Jordan, Syria, Gaza, the occupied territories in the West Bank. They're all over the place. Now, that's how you got Israel. Let's segue real quick. One of the first countries in the Middle East to have a written constitution was Iran. Their constitution was run down in part because of foreign machination. People didn't want them to get their stuff together. Okay, it's not just blacks in America, folks, outsiders messing in your business. You had the Qajars, who are this corrupt dynasty that ruled for a couple hundred years. They phased out. And in the 1920s, you got the Pahlavis. You had the father of Mohammad Reza Shah, who took over. He was a big fan of Hitler. And in the early 1940s, he got forced to move to South Africa, of all places. And his son, the last Shah of Iran, whose son is telling people that Iran is going to have a regime change so he can go back and be king. He becomes head of state in the 1940s. Just a couple years before the state of Israel is declared. The CIA and the British MI6 and others are behind him being there, as well as the United States military. In the 1950s, they get a really good leader, sort of like the Malcolm X of Iran. His name is Mohammad Mossadegh. He nationalizes the oil. One of the first people to say, hey, it's our shit, we should get paid for it. And America and Britain come together to destroy him, which they did. And they made the Shah a dictator who's basically a puppet of the CIA, America, and Britain. And what happens is when his ass times out because he at least wanted to get paid well for his oil, they got rid of him. They thought that they could control the Muslim Islamists, and it turns out Ayatollah Khomeini had more games in the circus. These Muslim folks who are Shia in Iran, under Ayatollah Khomeini, had this whole belief that they have a mission to help free oppressed people, in particular in the Middle East, and the priority is Al-Quds or Jerusalem. So from 1979, or I guess they've been in power since 79, 80, when they kicked the Shah's ass out, they're the first Islamic republic, and they made it clear they're not for the occupation of Palestine by Israel. Let's stop for a second. Do you have questions, sister? Am I explaining this in a lively, intelligent way? I'm just trying to put this together.
No,
I'm going as fast as I can to bring everybody along.
no, it is wonderful. It is beautiful.
So, okay, good. So now we get the Shah's ass. The Shah, he was really good to maybe the top 20% of Iran. He developed the country really fast. He didn't like all the religious people. He's sort of like the Boule to black people. Certain black folks who don't basically, they want to look like they give a damn about the rest of us, but they don't. And they only help people on a certain level. So Iran got all of this money, and on top of that, the Shah, that they don't give him credit for, he was a bitch about that oil. He made certain that Iran got top dollar for their oil, and Iran's economy boomed. But he didn't like, because you have to understand something. We talked about the emancipation of the Jews from their rabbis, but in a lot of traditional Islamic societies, the people are ruled by their religious leaders, their mullahs.
Yes.
Okay? And these guys have a lot of power. Iran is one of the few, it's probably the only predominant Shia country in the world. Shia Islam is partisans of Ali, one of the nephews or grandsons, but he's a family member of Muhammad. Brother Ford, you know better. It's either a nephew or a grandson or something like that. It's not a son. Thought that they should be the successor of the initial caliphs, the initial leaders of the Islamic ulama started by Muhammad the Prophet, peace be upon him, for all you Muslims out there. And the corrupt Umayyads and others slaughtered the father and the son. So out of this you get a dissident group of Muslims who believe that Ali was supposed to be the successor to the men that succeeded Muhammad. And this is seen as heretical by Sunni Muslims to the point where people shed blood over the differences of view. In a nutshell, one of the main things, aside from believing in a different concept of who succeeded the Prophet and who should have done it, the Shia, and they're different brands, they're 12ers, and I don't want to do all that because, you know, I don't want to confuse people. But one of the key things you need to understand about Shia Islam, which is key, is that they believe, and they're deadly serious, they believe that their ayatollahs, their holy men, speak for God, like Catholics see their Pope. This Ayatollah Khamenei is God's man on earth for Shia, as is Ayatollah Sistani in Iraq. He's God's man. That's God talking through his mouth. Donald Trump threatening to kill the Shia equivalent of a pope, that shit can't go well. We're talking about people who may not like dude. I know what it's like to be in Iran and folk go off because I called him the supreme leader. They felt that way because they're mad, but if you blew him up, you will make certain people say, we don't care if we die. So just remember, when they have a shura and they do that purification thing and they beat themselves bloody with the little sword, these people don't mind bleeding, they don't mind fighting. They're the ones who brought suicide bombing to Hezbollah. In fact, the only people who've been able to put their foot in the Israelis' asses have been Shia Muslims who don't mind dying and don't mind killing, and you know, ain't no party like a Shia, a radical Shia party, because the radical Shia party don't stop. They're the ones that said, you know what? Right after Ayatollah Khomeini, the first one, the one with the big turban, he was really like interesting. The Israelis had been going into Lebanon off and on, right, in the 70s. there was a big national civil war in Lebanon between 75 and 79, and part of it has to do with, I gotta have to kind of explain this. All right, let me do this. The Sykes-Picot Treaty, Sykes is an English person, Picot is a French person. They said, look, we want to get the oil, and we want to fuck up whatever order that these Arab people could have and give them a fake sense of having their own countries and republic, but they'll be so jacked up the way we constructed these borders. Sort of like what they did with Africa, and sort of what they do with black Americans with this people of color shit. You construct something that nobody can work with, so everybody hates each other. There's never enough for anybody. You put people together that don't belong together, can't stand each other, don't know each other, don't have intelligible languages. You put all their asses together, and you say, oh, this is a country, here's a flag. Fuck you. If you have a civil war, you can go into debt buying guns from us, we'll send it to you, right?
Right.
This is what they did. And by the way, one of the groups that they completely fucked the Kurds. They're like 30, 40, 50 million Kurds. They're about 6 or 7 million of them in Germany alone. Understand that they created a Middle East where the Kurds were divided up between Syria, Turkey, Iraq, Iran. They just got, so these people never get to, they're landlocked and they don't get to be like strong in any society. They're always a minority group, and they're different because a Kurd ain't an Arab. A Kurd isn't an Arab.
Mm-hmm.
That's just an example. In the case of Syria, by the way, Syria and Iraq should be one country. If Syria and Iraq were one country, then the Shia would have a bigger population. I'm sorry, the Sunni would have a bigger population, and they wouldn't be oppressed by the huge number of Shia who live in the southern, basically the Pacific, not Pacific, why am I saying that? The Persian Gulf. Okay, let me do this again. If you were to divide Iraq into 3 pieces,
Okay.
the western piece of Iraq, which is dominated by Anbar province, it's heavily desert. There's not a whole lot of people there. Then the middle third, you've got the Kurds and you've got the other people, Yazidis, all these, but basically, and you got some Assyrian Christians and this, that, and the other. Okay, then you got that part. And then on the eastern part, where the majority of the population is, they're Shia.
Mm-hmm.
Had you put Syria and Iraq together, which should have been, you would have had a better balance. But instead, you put the Sunni in charge over a Shia majority with a significant number of Assyrian Christians or Chaldees, and you've got the Kurds. And right? And so you got this is wild.
Wow.
So, and you put them in, and you put in these kings that aren't necessarily related to the people. For example, the king of Jordan, okay, his family is from Arabia. They're not Jordani.
Correct.
Right? So you put in, so it's sort of like picking Obama or Ofag, as I call him, or this guy Westmore, who's a Jamaican that doesn't like black people, as the governor of Maryland. You get someone that's nothing like the people that they rule. And you had King Farouk in Egypt. He was a Turk who didn't speak the language of the people, not that he'd care to. He's too busy having orgies, getting high, and gambling.
Right.
This is this new Middle East that the white people put together. And they said, work with it. We're going to fuck it up, make it work. And in the case of Syria, it's got a bunch of tribes, and you've got the Alawites, who are in Latakia and Aleppo, but then you've got all these other people that are Sunni, and you've got a desert part of the country, right? And then you got but the majority of them are Sunni. And because the French got Syria, and they said, you know what, let's fuck this up a little bit. We don't want Syria to be too big or too strong. Let's make things a little weird. So you know what they did? They said, we're going to respect everyone's religion. That's not what they meant. What they meant is that we're going to create a Catholic dictatorship that looks like a democracy in what's called Lebanon, and it'll be confessional. That basically means that your percentage of power and your representation is based on your religion. So you got Druze, which is some kind of offbeat Islam. You got your Sunni, you got your Shia, you got your Maronites who are Christians, and you got your Catholic Lebanese and your Orthodox Lebanese. So you got all these people with different religions, different traditions, right? And you put the Christians in charge over, and it is not quite clear who's the majority. And of course, because the Christians can move and get around, they got more money, they probably get out of there because they see how jacked up it is. And you have a Muslim population where these people are having children for Allah and everything else. The Muslim population grows and grows and grows, right? And when the Muslim folks say, hey, wait a minute, we should get more power because it was set up where the president was always a Christian and the vice person was always going to be a Sunni. I don't think they really had much for Shia. And the people got tired. And then when the Palestinians' asses got run out of Israel, they came in and they became a volatile mix. And, you know, one of the Christian, Gamaliel is a family name. They're the big, bushy Christian Lebanese family. And, you know, Lebanese, some are cool, but a lot of them involved in smuggling and drugs and all kinds of shit. They really raunchy towards black people in Haiti and all over West Africa. Yes, I said it. I don't care. Fuck Paul Anka. All right? Yeah. Don't put your head on my shoulder. Now, these Shia, understand something, are oppressed in Ayatollah Khomeini's book. Plus, America had invaded them in 1957 or 58. One of those 2 years. Forgive me if I'm a year off. Damn, it was in the 50s. Look it up. I'm just saying, damn. Because the Muslims were trying to get a little bit more. And there was even a black family that was there. My friend, his family got kicked out of Lebanon by Eleanor Roosevelt for talking about Palestinians and how bad the Muslims were being treated. A black American doing this in 1952, 1953, 1954. And my friend lived over in Southeast, and forgive me for forgetting the family name. But this really happened. So a black person got kicked out of the State Department. Plus, you have the American University of Beirut, Lebanon, which is a big CIA hookup spot. And on top of that, Lebanon was a big freaky dicky. If you sort of want to have some olive skin sex with the man or whatever, go to Beirut. It should be called Gayroot. All right. No more jokes. We'll be serious. When the 60s ended, and with the Palestinians, the Palestine Liberation Organization was established in the 1960s. They began fighting and doing stuff to agitate for the rights of Palestinians. And you had them killing Israelis, Israelis killing Palestinians. You had people shooting. In fact, the Israelis went in and jacked up people in Gaza, blowing up all kinds of stuff. So this stuff has been going on for a long time. But some of these Palestinians that got run out of Israel were in Lebanon, and they started having fights with the Sunnis and the Christians, but in particular the Christians, and somebody's ass got shot. Of course, these people have been traumatized, right? And ultimately what happens, the Israelis go in because they're mad because the Palestinians are attacking Israel from Lebanon. And the Israelis say, you know, hell, we want the water from the Litani River because it's dry as hell in Israel anyway. And there's always a water problem in Israel, believe me. Uh, they went in and invaded Lebanon in the late 70s and did stuff. And in particular, actually in the 80s, they did it. And what ended up happening is that the Israelis, it got good to them because they started kicking the Palestinians' asses and doing all kinds of stuff to them. And they were tired. And we need to remember from like 1965 to like 1982, you had terrorist shit happening all the time around the Middle East. People blowing up planes, shootings in train
Yeah.
stations. This shit was nuts. They had everybody shook, right? And this didn't really calm down until like Jimmy Carter in the late 70s when Anwar Sadat signed a treaty with the terrorist by the name of Menachem Begin. He was in the Stern gang, so these folks are killing and bombing people. And don't let anyone tell you these Israelis did a lot of terrorism too. But
Yes.
what happens is the Palestinians, when Israel and Egypt signed their agreement, because Israel had a series of wars. In 1948, they had a war. In 1952, they had a war. They had a war in 1956. And they had a war in 1967. They had a war in 1972. Yom Kippur 72. You had the Six-Day War in 67. You had the invasion of the you had the Suez Canal situation in 1956. You had the fight in 1954. You had the fight in 1948. It's 5 wars. And what ended up happening is each time Israel got bigger and badder and got more land. In particular, in 1967, they got the Golan Heights. They got Jerusalem. They got control of the West Bank. They got the Sinai Peninsula. And that gave them control of Gaza. Now,
And that's when they bombed the USS Liberty in '67.
in 67, yeah, they bombed the USS Liberty, killed about 40 sailors, tried to make it look
Yeah.
like someone else did it, tried to blame it on the Egyptians. No one
Yeah.
talks about it because Israel would never do anything to anybody. Only
They
things are
lied.
done to Israel. Only no one Jewish ever hurt anyone ever.
But
Only
they attacked
people,
our warship.
only people kill, hurt, and mistreat Jews. Jewish people are angels. They're loving. They never ever do anything wrong. They've never hurt anyone. They're the most loving, caring, honest, genuine people, and just the world should just appreciate and give them what they want because they've been through so much.
Correct.
Okay, that is the way. That's the way you make it in America. I could be a politician if I kept saying that. Anyway, with these Shia, what happens in the early 80s, Ariel Sharon, a very aggressive general, allows the Gamayel and the others, the Christian phalangists, or should I say Lebanese Christian fascists, to do a genocide on Palestinians and Lebanese at Shatila and Sabra. They went up, cut people off by the knees, killing families, babies, whatever. Nothing's really done about it, so what? Who cares? Just sand niggas, right? I mean, it could be better if we had killed them had they been black. We'd just do them all. Anyway, moving right along. This is happening at the same time that Iran has its change in government because they got rid of the Shah. He got run out of the country. And Ayatollah came in February 1979 or 19. Just look, it's either 79 or 80. I think it's one of the two. It's either February. Wait a second. How many years is that they said they were in? Was
See,
this?
I was born in '78.
If this is 45 years, then it would be 1979. If it's, I'm sorry, it would be, if it's 46 years,
It was '79.
it is 79. February 2nd,
Yeah.
1979. Okay, I know the day, the year, it's hazy because the next year was the hostages. That's what
It started in '78, but it was '79.
it's 79 when Ayatollah Khomeini comes back.
Correct.
All right. By 1980, the United States and other countries have prompted, and also these are also other Arab countries to get Saddam Hussein and Iraq to take down the Islamic Republic of Iran. And a couple of things happened. Aside from it being a very bloody war, maybe 1 million, 2 million people died. The United States and other countries funded a lot of terrorism because they were mad. And remember, in 1980, you had it's 444 days that they had the hostages at the United States Embassy in Iran. And they found all this. I mean, it was a real mess. But while this is going on, Iraq, with a lot of American weapons and all, and French weapons, began attacking Iran. And that just makes the Iranians really want to fight against injustice and fight against people that don't like them. And we need to remember that there was an effort, there was a massacre in Mecca that they blame the Iranians trying to take it over. We need to remember that the Iranians began to go in and help this group. There were groups of Shia that began to say, we're not going to take this shit. There was a group called Amal, and Amal got superseded by Hezbollah.
Yes.
The first leader of Hezbollah, I forget his name, but he got blown up in his convoy. They killed his wife, children. They just blew up everybody. The Israelis got his ass. And so we need to understand some things happen. We also need to remember that Israel went all the way in and they bombed Beirut in the early 80s and ran the Palestinians off to Tripoli. They went over to Libya. But at the same time, the Hezbollah people were still there. And the Iranians, instead of putting soldiers and all, which they didn't really have because they were fighting the Iraqis, trained Hezbollah into a military force. And this is where you got the introduction of the suicide bombers. If I can remind you that the Marine barracks, or where the Americans and French soldiers were in Beirut, truck bombers killed easily 200 or more military personnel of the United States and France. I still remember them pulling the black man out of the rubble with dust all over the crack of his ass. That's whenever I think of it, the black man with all the dust. I mean, it's just, didn't you wish your drawings were pulled up? Do you want to go down in history as a person with concrete dust all over your ass? That's what I remember. That's the one that died, had the concrete dust on his ass, and they pulled him out of the rubble.
Oh, Lord.
They blew up all those people. They started taking hostages everywhere. And the Iranians pissed everybody off. Aside from the Iranian hostage situation brought down the presidency of Jimmy Carter with the collusion of the Republican Party, that the Bushes and others worked, and Reagan worked to make certain that the Iranians did not hand over the hostage. Plus, we need to remember that the rescue mission where the helicopters blew up and a whole bunch of people died, and the Iranians were playing with the dead bodies of the charred American pilots and soldiers as if, it was some bad barbecue that was on the ground. So America was
Iran-Contra.
No, Iran-Contra comes later. That's later. I'm giving it straight. And I'm just trying to say to you that Iran, when the people tried to overthrow Mecca, they blew up the people and they were taking hostages in Lebanon. They ultimately, by the way, by 2000, I think the 22 years of Israeli occupation of southern Lebanon, Hezbollah kicked their asses out with the help of the Iranians. America's main allies in the Middle East are Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Israel. But it should be Israel, Saudi Arabia, Egypt. That's their main allies. Never get it twisted. Because they had Sadat, but when Sadat's ass got blown away by the Islamic Brotherhood, whenever anything bad happens in the Middle East, if Iran didn't do it, it's associated with Iran because it's almost as if They're the rotten apple. Once their asses broke out, they made everybody else act crazy. The Iranians made everybody, the Islamic shitheads. Everything was cool until they came along. Think about that. And once we got through the oil crisis, nobody had a problem. Nobody's having a problem with these people, right? I'm just saying. So, what you've got going now is to segue to now. I'm just giving you a background. The Iranians and the Iraqis slogged it out until the late 80s. But then a couple of things happened in the late 80s. You had the Iran-Contra thing that's linked to crack cocaine being used to raise money for the CIA to buy arms and missiles and such. And the Iranians made a fool out of Ronald Reagan's ass.
Yes.
See, they screwed Carter.
Yeah.
They screwed Reagan. And if truth be told, it looks like they're going to screw Trump if he's not careful. And they kind of made a fool out of Obama. They also clowned Clinton by pulling shit off. So they even got over a little bit. They got over on people. The United States goes in and destroys Iraq because they get told by Israel to get rid of Saddam Hussein because he wants weapons of mass destruction, which isn't necessarily true. But once they attacked the Iraqis enriching uranium for their own purposes, that's when Saddam Hussein starts wanting weapons of mass destruction. Okay, and that happens late 70s, early 80s. It's called Oriak. It was someplace in Iraq that the Israelis went in and bombed and blew the shit out of dudes' nuclear plants. And that's when Saddam wanted to have nukes. When the United States took Saddam out, we had two. We had Desert Storm in 91, and then we had another one. Okay, when did that happen? That happened in 2003, right? So you had one in 91 and then one in 2003. The big winner, dumbasses, when America invaded Iraq and they got rid of Saddam, they got rid of the Sunnis. The Baathists, by the way, Baath means rebirth or resurrection. There's a Baath party in Syria, which Assad and them were leaders of, and his ass got kicked out. What is it, this year? Something, I think it's the beginning of this year. His ass got kicked out. And then you had a Baath party in Iraq. Both of them have since been basically decimated as of this year. Now you've got Iran. And let's go back to the Shah. The Shah loved weapons. He loved weapons almost as much as Diddy liked sex toys. And the Shah was spending billions and billions of dollars from France, England, America buying all these weapons. Iran had one of the most powerful militaries in the world under the Shah. In fact, the planes that are being shot down or are not necessarily operating that well that Iran has are United States F-13s, F-14s, Phantom jets. These are things from the 60s, 70s, and the things that were on order they never got. But Iran had a massive military. They had all kinds of equipment and stuff. The Shah had all this stuff. And one of the other things, there was a program that the United States and other countries started called Atoms for Peace, where they were pushing nuclear energy. So Pakistan was a member of Atoms for Peace, and the Shah had a nuclear program. It was America's idea. It wasn't the idea of the mullahs. All along, the Islamic leadership considers the nuclear weapons disgusting, haram, un-Islamic. We don't need your damn bombs. We'll blow your ass up. We'll take you out without nuclear weapons. If everybody's understanding me, they've refused to develop nuclear weapons. And if you understand, and I need to go back and say to you, 44 years ago this month, Ayatollah Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran right now, was sent an explosive device, I believe a tape recorder, which was supposed to kill him. It was either developed by the Israelis or the Americans. It blew up his arm, caused all kinds of damage, but it didn't kill him. And you need to understand the United States supports all of the anti-Islamic Republic terrorist groups, Jandallah, Mujahideen, Al-Qaeda, like it's like a leftist sex cult Islamic it's a Marxist Leninist freaky deaky militia cult that hates the Islamic Republic, and they get all kinds of help. They've been based over in Europe. I think they were in Belgium. They've gotten help. When America was in Iraq, the United States was helping them. They blow up people. They kill stuff. They do all the time. You have a lot of people. You even have CIA and other people, when they were in Afghanistan, were deliberately helping people pump dope into Iran. Iran has one of the highest rates of heroin addiction in the world, morphine addiction in the world. So they absolutely hate dope in Iran. They're not playing, but the United States, this is the kind of game the United States has done to Iran. And so the Iranians, there's no love lost. There's been a consistent economic war against Iran by the United States, and the Iranians are doing their stuff too. So when people talk about terrorism, it goes both sides. America's done some shit to them. They've done some shit back. It's sort of like a person that you put a cherry bomb in their drawers and they put some doo-doo in your pocket. I mean, it's just because people aren't respecting each other. Whenever the Iranians put up a reformer who will get along with America, the United States fucks that person. They had Rafsanjani, and now they have a new Iranian, and forgive me for not remembering how to pronounce his name, Prakatsian. If I'm saying his name wrong, look it up. It's on Press TV. This guy was willing to work with the United States. Yeah, the United States. They're willing to work with him, work with the United States, and he's negotiating, and then they bomb his country, start killing everybody. So that's where you are. And so now we have a situation, and now we can bring it back. Bibi Netanyahu, he's a piece of shit, liar, fraud.
Yeah.
I have a friend named Wayne Madsen, who's an investigative journalist, reporter, and he shared with me, this is what he said, it's alleged that Bibi Netanyahu enjoys watching adult men have sex with boys.
Ooh.
I didn't say it's true, it's alleged. I don't know. I hope it's not true. But his allegation was that he had a friend who's in Secret Service that had to be in the security detail of Bibi Netanyahu. And Netanyahu, because you're in security, you have to go wherever people go. So he went to some sex shop, and you have this big man with a big you-know-what boinking a little guy, and he was getting off to the screams. Before you react to me, before you act like I'm picking on someone or I don't like anybody or I'm lying on Bibi Netanyahu, let me remind you, this year, that the United States Department of State spokesperson acknowledged that Israeli soldiers were serially sodomizing Palestinian men with broomsticks. And that video, certain people allege, was being watched by leaders of the state of Israel. I'm trying to think, to me, it's not a stretch. If you can watch people put a broom up a grown man's behind, I guess you could watch a grown man put a thing in a little boy's behind. If you're into something like this. And let's just be real. Tel Aviv, the largest city in Israel, is known as the most gay-friendly city in the world. It probably has the largest gay population of any city of its size in the world. Israel is super friendly to porn and other things. I'm just saying, it just is.
Yeah.
Most people that live in Israel are not observant Jews, Christians. I'm saying the people are non-Islamic, And they even use male homosexual spies to get information on Hezbollah and the Palestinian resistance groups. So I wouldn't doubt, when I think about Epstein and others, the kinds of things that people will do where you bribe and you blackmail and you use deception. Just maybe what Mr. Madsen reported to me could be happening. We know that Israel channels and sends pornographic images all over the Middle East. We know in Abu Ghraib, when these guys were being forced to do all this homosexual stuff and they have dogs barking, biting at men's penises, which happened. And there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of photo images of all kinds of queer stuff being done to Iraqi prisoners and Abu Ghraib prison, in Iraq. It also happened in Bagram in Afghanistan. And the Israelis were the ones teaching them how to humiliate these prisoners, doing things like cutting people on the tip of their penis with razors one at a time, just like cutting on people's penises to mess with their minds. We have to ask why in Israel you're taking kids from families, and the families can't even ask the whereabouts of their kids, or they get put in jail. What do you want their kids for?
Right.
And it's been alleged that the reason that certain people don't mind being suicide bombers and some of these Islamic societies is because when they get raped as young men or children, they don't have any honor when they go back home. And it's easier to get blown up and be loved as a martyr than to have been a person buckbroken by Zionists. Let's think about that. Why do you take children? Why do you abduct children? Why do grown men walk around and I want him, take him? What boys ain't doing it, somebody just take him. Who does that? Is that heterosexual and normal to go in and target children and say, bring that kid to me, he's going to jail, and disappears for a year? What do you think could happen if I'm taught that you're dirty or you're not quite human or you're less than me? Why not do something weird to you? Why not do something to disfigure you? Why not? It happens in foster care every day in America. Imagine if you're in a war zone, what you do to a little boy who's giving you a nasty look. You think he's gonna grow up one day and be a terrorist. I'm gonna give you a reason to blow up. I'm gonna give you right. Come on, people. It's a sick culture. In order to be an oppressor, in order to take people's land and lives and bomb folks and blow up ambulances and hospitals, you've got to literally not see people as human. In fact, when you do that, when anything goes, then why couldn't it be pedophilia? You know that hundreds and hundreds of American rabbis and others who get in trouble for pedophilia flee to Israel because there's not an extradition treaty. So if you're an American Jew and you work at a yeshiva and you want to molest the boys or the bathhouse, whatever it is, and you get into trouble and people get upset, like it happens all over New York. Yes, it does. You just fly to Israel. Leaving on a jet plane, I'm gonna find a way to be a pedophile again. Okay, they'll leave. And no one says or does anything. And don't you think some of those pedophiles could end up being people running the prisons?
Right.
Or youth detention centers?
Right.
Do you think anybody cares what someone does to a Palestinian kid at the hands of these people? Just asking. Do you really think? Like I said, the Israeli soldiers who got in trouble for putting broomsticks in the Palestinian guys' behinds, even one guy was screwed so much he died from the broom in his behind. When they arrested or wanted to bring charges against the men for sodomizing these Palestinians, the local people rose up in revolt and said these guys were heroes and broke them out of jail. I repeat, men that put broomsticks in other men's behinds are heroes. No charges. None. If you can do it to a grown man, you can do it to a child. That's why I believe it's possible. Now, understand something. Now let's bring it to now. Bibi Netanyahu is a degenerate man. He's been warning about Israel having a nuclear weapon for 33 years.
Iran.
I'm sorry, Iran. And they were saying Iraq too. I mean, everybody's got.
Yeah, everybody.
When I don't like you, you've got something. We got to do something about it.
Yes.
Bibi Netanyahu almost predicted the World Trade Center. He almost called the year it would happen. How does he know all these things? I'm just
because they have the largest intelligence spy agency in the world, the Mossad.
And they have some of the best trained terrorists in the world too. Now I want to say this to everyone. I recall working an APAC dinner, and former New Hampshire governor, I think he's New Hampshire, Howard Dean, he's in the New Hampshire, Vermont. It's not a okay. They were talking about Ari Fleischer, spokesperson for Bush.
Yes.
They were talking about Iran developing a nuclear bomb before 2013, 2012. When I was there for APAC, there's a group of people that give $100,000 to the American Israel Political Action Committee, AIPAC. There's a group called the Minyan, MINYAN, the Minions. These are people that give at least, this was then, $100,000 annually to AIPAC to be a minion. And they were saying that Iran would have a bomb before 2012-13. That's 12, 13 years ago that Iran was supposed to have a bomb.
Correct.
Iran doesn't have a nuclear bomb. Tulsi Gabbard, who's lost her honorary white status, is telling the truth. And yet, here we are now with Donald Trump being reined in, who's got money from the Adelson, Sheldon, and the Adelson family. All these people who've given money to the Democrat and Republican Party, the disproportionate amount of giving to both parties, private giving, comes from, truth be told, Jewish donors. That's what you mean by funders. Ari Emanuel, all these people, Ari Emanuel's Jewish. Rahm Emanuel's his brother. I'm not picking, I didn't give Sheldon Adelson's Jewish. His wife is Jewish. I'm not picking on anyone. I'm just saying, this is who they are. These are the people who give the money. They like Israel. Their money's rooted in Israel. And like I said, there's a connection between the Jewish mafia, which does exist, and there are two of them. There's the American Jewish mafia, and then there's the Russian mafia, or it should be called the Ukrainian mafia. But then again, Russian and Ukraine, those are just different divisions of the Jewish mafia. I'm just telling you. So, who started Vegas? Who had the money? Who really put the money behind Bugsy Siegel, who is Jewish?
Mm-hmm.
Who was the mastermind, the financial mastermind of the mafia? And forgive me for not remembering his name, but he used to hang with Lucky Luciano, who's Italian. Meyer Lansky. Meyer Lansky, if I'm correct, died in Israel.
Yeah.
And Meyer Lansky's Jewish. And there's another person who's Jewish in the mafia. His name is Mo Dalitz. He's a big mafioso from, I think, Cleveland, Ohio. At least he's from Ohio. I didn't say everybody, all. I'm just saying some really big, major ones. And we can go on and on and on with this.
I'm not trying to make anybody hate me when I'm only talking about facts. You can look this shit up. Uh, there's a strong relationship between the entertainment, mafia, gambling, all of this, sin industries, and who runs them. And if we start
Mm-hmm.
talking about prohibitionist country, and we talk about the Bronfman is Jewish. If you look at the media, Summer Redstone, all these people, I'm sorry, that do the political news that you see, who's doing that? They're not me. They're not redneck people. And I'm not blaming all Jewish people because it's not all of them, but some of these big billionaires, Jewish.
Yeah.
How, why? I'm not saying I know. I'm not saying that they have all the money or the power. I'm only saying that they've got power and influence. And at least to a layperson, it outstrips the percentage of people that they are in the public. So if you're 3, 4, 5% of the population and you own the major networks, the Hollywood studios, if they're not Chinese owned, it does look like you got a preponderance of power. It just look when you have an American president that reverses on a dime every time someone says something. When you look at the people in the cabinet of Biden, I mean, almost everybody. I mean, if you look at who's the Treasury Secretaries, almost usually it's in one specific demographic group, repeatedly, male or female. Just saying. Now, we can have a conversation about Christian Zionism because it's out there. And by the way, they're just racist. British Israelism, they all believe, well, we're the missing tribe of this. They also claim to be, there's another group of white folk from Europe who are claiming to be Hebrews, and they're the missing tribe. The British are the original people, and they're folks. I mean, it's all jokes. And at the same time, and their construction or misconstruction of the Bible, you guess who the Philistines are? None other than Black Americans. Go
Mm-hmm.
figure. All right, so we're the devil's people. We had this conversation on my channel before on the serpent seed that black folks are the children of the devil. We're the children of Cain. The devil gangbanged Eve in the garden and he made black people, and we're just murderers and liars and grifters and cheaters. And we're in the way of all these wonderful, God fearing, pale people. And we should just be destroyed in the end so there can be a heavenly kingdom in the millennium with no black people forever and ever. Amen. We've
So,
got
Dr.
those
Short,
people. Yes, sir.
let me ask you a question. And pardon me if I was interrupted you. So I know that you had told us before in reference to the greater Israel. You actually told everybody to Google it. It's readily available.
It's readily available. I'm not saying
Yes.
anything that anyone. The problem with the American public is only 2% of the American public reads. And when you
Correct.
go to the news, the journalists don't know what the fuck they're talking about. I worked in the news for years. I used to put the script together. The people go in and they read what they're told to read. Sometimes they do a lot of reading on a story, and sometimes recap the news today. I don't know what the fuck I'm reading, but I'm here. My name is on today in the news, right? It's scripted. They don't know what the fuck's going on half the time. I'm just telling you. I know what it's like to help put together a documentary that was on PBS. These people were going to do something on Congo had never heard of Patrice Lumumba. The only reason I got the assignment was nobody white wanted to do it. I had to
Mm-hmm.
beg to do it because I knew. Then it was done so well, people were embarrassed. If he could do this, it's not right for us to keep him here and not let him do anything. He needs to leave. Not let's let him do. Get his ass out of here because he's capable. He might sue us one day for not letting him do what he's capable of doing. Imagine that. Anyway, that's television for you. There's so much racism in American news. It's so bad the way people get treated and spoken to. It's shameful. It's shameful, and
But
all I
not,
can
not only the news, social media platforms.
all all all,
I mean,
all
it's
of it,
worse.
all
All
of
of
it,
it.
all of it is trash.
So let me ask you guys a question: are we delaying the inevitable?
No, God's in control. Now,
Yes, he
this is
is.
where we gotta go. Bibi Netanyahu's a piece of trash. He's been saying that there's this bomb. He's gotten rid of everybody that he can't stand now that Bashir al-Assad is gone. So
Yes.
you got rid of the guy in Syria. You shut down Hezbollah. You killed Nasrallah. You bought off the guy's name is Al Sisi. He's the head of
Yes.
Egypt. He's a dictator. His people hate him. You got the guy by the balls in Jordan who's half British and half Arab, right?
Yes. King Abdullah.
King Abdullah with his Palestinian wife, who, he probably married her just to keep the people from rebelling. Sort of like
Yep.
black folks are clout chasers. If someone's screwing someone black, we feel safe even if we're being lynched. We're really stupid. Damn, we're stupid. I mean,
That's a
you
good.
make it
That's a good way to put it.
really, really hard for me not to get why white supremacists don't think they couldn't take us all out. We really aren't the kind of people that instill like fear. They're gonna rise up one day and we're gonna pay for all the shit we've been doing for 400 years. They look at like we can kill all them off. They'll never stand up. They hate themselves too much. Look at them. Let's put some guns in the neighborhood. Watch them shoot each other. I'm a cop that makes little kids give me blowjobs in the playground and nobody will touch
Oh,
me.
damn.
That's our reality. Damn, we're sorry. It's sad. It's sad, niggas. It's sad. Anyway, back to Bibi Netanyahu. Remember, he used to spend the night in Donald Trump's son-in-law's bedroom. I don't know if
Yes.
I'd want a grown man sleeping in my son's bedroom.
No.
And let me remind you, Jared Kushner's father is known in Jersey, your state, sir, Mr. Ford, for setting people up for gay stings. Oh, yes, he did. He was in jail for setting, I think, the governor up with the man. If
Oh,
you'd set a man up with another man, and you saw this person as a rising star that would be a major player in Israel, what better way to get him in your pocket and say, you boinked my son? Now,
mm-hmm.
I'm not mad. I understand he wanted it, and we're not going to go to the cops, but, you know, oh, don't act like this doesn't happen, because it happened with Evans Chandler Sr., the guy who was trying to get 20 some odd $1 million from Michael Jackson, hoping that Michael Jackson screwed his son and tortured his son, gave his son auto-suggestive drugs again to say, what did Michael Jackson's dick look like? What did it look like? Answer me. What did Michael Jackson's dick? Give him more. And Michael Jackson thought paying the money would get it off, right? That's where the
Right.
Jumi Sumi came from. The Jumi is, I need $20 million for the good baby boy sex you got from my son. And I think if you didn't do it, you'll have a hard time preserving your name and reputation if I go to court, even if you didn't do it. And Michael paid, and he never got off the hook. There are cultures that pimp out children to people, like the Mexican woman who left her son
Mm-hmm.
with Michael Jackson and was holding up her fingers, snapping for money and all in front of a Latino jury not too long ago, people, hoping that Michael would just, break it off in her son one time so they could live good. People think that folks won't pimp a child. I'm sorry, and black folk do it too. This R. Kelly, I have no confidence in the moral compass of many black Americans who are just as nasty, vile, and wicked as anybody else. Would do anything
Yes.
for a dollar. And so back to Jared Kushner being in charge of the Middle East
No diplomatic experience whatsoever. I passed the Foreign Service exam at least one time, 2 hours early, written and multiple choice, in the top 1%. No one would trust me to have one attempt to even be in a room to type a report. What did Jared Kushner have? And I'm going to tell you, he is so tight with those people in Saudi Arabia. Check out the
Yes.
book by Perkins called The Economic Hitman. It's a Confessions of an Economic Hitman. And he talks about the way that they would get Arabs to sell out their countries is bring them, in particular, blonde-haired white women. He was being polite. You can take them children too, white boys, white girls, and get these Arabs who are ashamed. And in fact, I know this is going to offend you, brother, but there's an allegation I ran across on the internet that said that when the creator of the universe, under the name of Allah, made humanity, he took the white people out of God's right arm and the black people out of God's left arm. I don't know if that's true or not. And that could be in a hadith, and there are a lot of strange interpretations in hadiths, but there's a heavy anti-black thing that you see in Roman Catholicism, and out of it, it's baby churches Protestantism, but you also have the same kind of anti-blackness in Islam. And veneration of all things white. And I don't know what that's about, but it's all over. But I'm going to say this, that I believe Bibi Netanyahu is a degenerate, so is his wife. They're greedy. There are all these things to charge them with corruption. All this stuff is being hidden.
Yes.
The people out in the streets protesting before this Yom Kippur 2.0 kicked off, the Al-Aqsa flood, the people want to get rid of Bibi Netanyahu. However, the year prior, I wrote an editorial for an Iranian newspaper telling people that Bibi Netanyahu will win again and that Bibi Netanyahu was going to have the most reactionary cabinet. He's going to get all the settlers, and he's going to go to war with the Palestinians because he can't take down Hezbollah, which he's failed to do. But he has gone after the Palestinians. I was saying this in 2022, people. And he did. He has Ben Gvir and the other people from the settlements on the West Bank. I told people, I could tell you who's going to be in the damn cabinet. And I'm not an expert on Israel. I don't speak Arabic or Hebrew. But I know the dark heart of Bibi Netanyahu. Now, let me just remind everyone. The supreme leader of Iran was on the battlefield when the United States and the French were giving biological and gas weapons to be used to kill tens of thousands, if not scores of thousands of Iranians. The United States and other countries supplied the air power, the airplanes, to mow down and kill the Iranian soldiers to prevent them from overrunning Saddam Hussein as early as 1986. Right? So this guy who's the Ayatollah also recalls in 1981, the terrorists helped by the United States and others killed like over 50% of the ruling party of Ayatollah Khomeini. There's Khamenei and Khomeini. Okay. Ho, like prostitute, the first one. Ha is the second one. Khomeini, Khamenei. Khomeini, Khamenei. Okay. Khamenei, who succeeded Khomeini, like in the late 80s, early 90s. It's one of those years. It's between 89 and 91. One of those 3 years. I think Khamenei died in 89. Look it up for me real fast. I think he died in 89, and Khamenei came in. And understand something. So Khomeini was in from 1980 to 1989. They did everything to bust Iran's ass, and Iran survived.
Khamenei has had it ever since. Khamenei's dream is for his son to succeed him. Iran has a range of issues. While they're very technologically advanced, their economy has suffered from the sanctions and other things, but the Iranians are gifted traders. They know how to make it. They've been able to somehow hang on in spite of their currency being messed with, losing value. I mean, crazy rates of inflation. But the issue in Iran is that most of its people are under the age of 20, and they don't always understand everything. What they know is, I don't have a job. I can't touch a person's boobs or kiss or do stuff in public. These folks want to have a good time. And you see this in revolutionary societies. You see it in Cuba. I've been to Cuba. And a lot of younger people are like, damn, I want to break. I want to break out. I want to do what I want. I saw this in Libya. People that got tired of all the stuff that they were under without understanding that things could be a lot worse.
Mm-hmm.
The United States, Israel, France, and other countries have nightmares about Iran. They want the Shah or something like that back. But remember, Ayatollah Khomeini got help from the United States. They did not think that these Islamists would be as slick as they were to get power. And at the same time, and this trend is throughout the Middle East, the British, Americans, and the French, but in particular the Americans and the British, have preferred to exalt Islamic religious leadership versus having Arab socialist regimes. They didn't like Nasser, right? They didn't like Saddam. They didn't like Assad. They don't like the people that were in Aden, part of Yemen. There used to be Aden, Yemen. Just take my word for it. Arab nationalist socialism frightens them. So they've done a devil's dance with Islamic brotherhoods and with radical Islamism because they think it's better than socialism, which is basically, baby pool communism. So they helped these Islamists. They wanted the Islamists to be in charge because you have something in Iran called the Tudeh Party, which is a communist party, which nobody wanted to take power. So, as a result, you now have this Islamic Republic of Iran. You've got Khamenei, who's now at the helm. You've got a young country, but a country that is technologically smart. Even the NASA that sends America's ships into space, you have a disproportionate number of Iranians in the air and space industry in the United States of America. And they've been in the stars and shit since baby Jesus had the Iranians show up in Bethlehem.
Mm-hmm.
Their asses are always looking up. Maybe it's because it's hell on earth where they are. But they've been in calculus, algebra. These Iranians aren't stupid. They've got a 5, 6, 7,000 year history. And they see themselves as having been kings when Western whites were in caves. They do not respect the legitimacy of Israel. They do want to get rid of the Jewish state. Jewish people are not hated in Iran. The Jewish Iranians are rich, doing great. So if you're in Iran, try trashing Jewish people. See how you get put in jail faster in Iran than here. I'm speaking from experience.
Wow.
Don't put Jewish. It's completely not tolerant. It's just no. You can't do it. it's very difficult to say critical things of Jewish people at all. If it's factual, don't say it. So this idea that Iran hates Jews, no. They don't like Zionism and it being an imperialistic, Luciferian force. And what in Islam you have two concepts of land. You have Dar al-Harb and Dar al-Islam. Dar al-Harb means place of evil. That's a non-Islamic land. Dar es-Salam, place of peace, is where Islam is the religion of the people in the land. The presence of these Polish and other people in Israel makes it Dar al-Harb to many Muslims, not just Shias. I was saying earlier to you that in Shia Islam, the Ayatollah is the equivalent of a pope.
Yes.
He speaks for God, and we've seen this in 10 years. If you recall, when ISIS and the Islamic Caliphate and all this bullshit was going on, Ali Baghdadi and all these people doing this bullshit in Syria. If you recall, Ali Sistani, the Ayatollah over in Iraq, and by the way, the Iraqi Shia and the Iranian Shia are all cool with each other. There's no hate there. And there's another guy named Muqtada al-Sadr to show you how strong the Shia are in Iraq, even with the American soldiers on the ground. Muqtada al-Sadr just told his people, go hog wild. And those folks took over the country with almost no shots being fired. There are that many of them that don't give a fuck about dying. When the Islamic Caliphate looked like they were going to take over Iraq, this guy says, I need 2 million people to go out and kill these people. They got 3 million. Like in a day or two. They never recovered. Yes, America and Russia bombed the people. All that shit's true. But they got 3 million people in like days. Just kill them in God's name. And everybody, okay, yes, sir. People left their jobs. We're going to go kill these people. Because he said, do you realize if you kill Ayatollah Khomeini, Donald Trump, and others, if his son became the Ayatollah, whatever, and it says we need an 8 million man army, or 6 million man, since Jews like number 6 so much, we have a 6 million man army to run those people out. I want someone out here to tell me that they can't get 6. I can assure you they probably can get 12. Who's going to fight that many people?
That's true.
And I want to say to you, don't know as much about Shia, but let me just give you some numbers. Maybe 15 to 20% of people in Saudi Arabia and all the oil-rich areas of Saudi Arabia are Shia. Depending on who's giving you the number, you'll see a number as high as 45% of the people in oil-rich Kuwait are Shia. 65% or more of the people in oil-rich Iraq are Shia. About 20% of the people in Afghanistan are Shia. About 20% of the people in Pakistan are Shia. Pakistan's population is like 280 million people. So 10% would be 28 million. So 28 million, it's like 56 million Shia in Pakistan. Yeah, work with me. India's got about 100 to 200 million Shia. That's a lot of people. A lot of people who are near sensitive areas to fuck up American foreign interests who don't care. And like I said to you, martyrdom. Martyrdom is like drinking a glass of water for Shia. I'm going to have some water. And they make their own guns and stuff. And we haven't even dealt with the fact that there are billions and billions of dollars of arms sitting in Afghanistan that they could just donate for general principle, for revenge for what America's done in Afghanistan. And I'm saying, damn. Now, So, like I said, they could put 2-3 million men in the field from just Iraq alone. And I need to remind people there are 92 or more million Iranians, not to mention that Iran has a significant number of refugees within its border, maybe 3-4 million. It's around about 95 million, 95 to 100 million people in Iran.
Sure. Let me ask you real quick. I understand the plan for the Greater Israel. Let me ask you, if they continue with what's going on, they eventually have a war.
No, we have a war.
Doesn't a destabilization make it worse?
Israel can't destabilize anymore. Okay. Stabilize Egypt, they're in trouble. So they're going to have to work with Egypt as it is. If they destabilize Jordan, by the way, Jordan is like 85, 90% Palestinian.
Yes.
If you they can't, the only thing left to destabilize is Iran. And frankly, Americans who question what Israel does, their enemies are thinking people who can't make sense of all this war, principally in the United States, who are footing the bill. So
Yes.
the Iranian public and the American public are enemies of Israel, not because by choice, but our interests don't match what these people want.
Correct.
I haven't said to you I'm against the state of Israel. I told you I'm of Jewish descent on multiple sides of my family. We talk offline. You never hear say, I hate Jews, kill. I can't undo what I come from. Okay. I accept it, okay? The same way I have slave masters in the family. I don't want to own slaves, right? I'm not gonna own any slaves. I refuse to be a party to that. But I can disagree with it. It doesn't mean that I hate slave masters, even if I hate slavery. I hate injustice. It doesn't mean I hate Israel. But if the people say we have to have injustice to have a state, I can't say you, my Christian faith says I have to stand with Israel no matter what. No, the only thing that I am to stand with no matter what is God Almighty. Okay.
Is the threat of sonic missiles a problem?
A threat of what?
The sonic missile.
Iran doesn't have it.
They don't. No.
They didn't want it. You're driving. They're being driven to it. It's sort of like white America. They won't do right until people burn the city down. Then you got their attention. I mean, who wants to burn anything? Who wants broken glass? I don't. I want nothing to do with it.
They're driving them because they're constantly being, the Israeli government, especially Benjamin Netanyahu, just like Dr. Short said, first it was Iraq, now it's Iran. It's anybody who he doesn't like. So at some point in time, you're going to have to defend yourself.
When you say to people,
defend yourself.
When you say that you need unconditional surrender to a person who's been attacked unprovoked after your head of state and other people died mysteriously, you've blown up foreign gas, all of these things that you consistently do, and I've got to surrender?
No.
Okay, let me say this to you. Nations, to me, mirror people. A bully gets their reputation off of beating someone's ass, and people take notice. I would say to you that the mentality of the American racist white man is based off of his ability to kick around black people. He's never had a war with this wife who just getting like the shit kicked out of them back like they put out. So there's a sense I can strike you, I can lynch you, I can segregate, I can do it, and you can't do anything back. And then that's projected throughout the world because there's no consequence. We watch videos all day long of a white person come up and spit on a black person that's not trying to bother them. And they have no sense that there's a consequence. Who says I want to be spat on? Who said you could spit on me? There's a imperial apartheid arrogance that's never been punished. It's never had the shit stomped out of it. And people are clinging to it. Netanyahu and them are clinging because they use this term, the real bomb. It's called the population bomb.
Mm-hmm.
That bomb is that these Israelis who are promoting all this gay shit and molesting kids and looking at porn and all this other kind of stuff, right? Except for the Orthodox who don't want to fight and they want to be on welfare in New York. Okay, yes, I said it. And get all the public housing and the rent control departments. Sure they do. Okay. I will just say this to you straight up, that the Palestinians in Jordan alone are 10, 12 million people. That means there are more Palestinians in Jordan than there are Israeli Jews in Israel.
Mm-hmm.
If you put them with the West Bank, that's about 4 million. They killed so many in Gaza, but let's assume that at least 1.5 million left. They've only killed 1 million. 3.5 is 4.5. So that's about 16 million people. You got at least 100,000 in Lebanon, at least 100,000 in Syria. You've got some in Egypt, and you've got them all over the place. You've got, and the Palestinian numbers are growing. Okay? If you weren't messing with them in food and everything else and mess with them in healthcare, Palestinians would probably be 25 million people.
Correct.
The one thing that they haven't been able to do is push gayness on the Palestinians or abortion. They've been very successful with blacks in America. We are just, goddamn, we're in the fucking yellow bus of humanity, falling for everything that people who hate us want us to do. Damn, we're the first ones to do it. They make crack, we gotta do it. They legalized marijuana, we all have to smoke it all day long. It used to be you couldn't walk around at the streets stinking, being funky and foul smelling, and your teeth being green. But weed comes in, and now K2 and all this stuff is so normal. The Palestinians haven't been broken. Even with corrupt, dirty leadership. In fact, what's his name? Abu Mazen, what's that bastard who's head of the Palestine Authority? Forgive me for forgetting his name. Abu Mazen is one of the names. There's another name that he has. Can you look it up for me real fast?
I'm doing it.
There's another name he goes by, and I was talking about him. He's got to be close to 90 years old. He's wicked. He's evil. He hates his own people. I've watched him ask for weapons to kill Palestinians. Mahmoud Abbas.
Mahmoud, yeah.
Okay, yes, I know his name. Just forgive me, but Abu Mazen is another name for him. Any Palestinian would know who I was talking about. He's a piece of shit. A lot of Palestinians are like Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton. They don't have real leadership. And that's the other threat that Iran has. There are a lot of Iranians who worship Western Europe and America. They listen to the BBC and Agence France and CNN, and they don't really know the downside to American life or to British life. They just know that they're not happy with stuff in Iran. That's a threat to them, as well as the mass Christian conversion. Iran has the fastest growing Christian population on the planet, which says that people don't feel a lot of hope with the current government that's too repressive, and you can't give people bread and water, but they've got to have a damn headscarf on.
Right.
Can you imagine not providing Kotex, but making a penalty to have bloodstains in your clothes? You know, damn it. I mean, if you dealt with one thing, you may not have the other problem. So Israel is as afraid as BB wants him to be. BB's a crook. He's been protected by crooked American Christians, crooked American Jews, crooked compromise Muslims who get paid, who are part of the system. This would never happen. This could never go on without the term in Arabic is hawaja. A hawaja is like a sell-out sand nigger. Hawaja, that's the word. Hawaja, no good, traitor, degenerate Muslims who allow the Palestinians and the Lebanese, Shia, and the Syrians and others to be mass killed, mass murdered, mass depressed, but they're living good. And as for Malcolm X and others who think if that's the best that Islam can do for its people, you can have it. I'll stay a stupid ass Christian. So now for us, for America, there are tens of millions of Muslim refugees, asylees, immigrants, first, second generation worldwide. You start killing and blowing up masjids and other stuff, and people start thinking trauma bonding and all. We have no idea what could be let loose, who's in this country, what their plans are. There are guns everywhere. There's no limit to what bad could happen here. Plus, with all of our white crazies who want a race and civil war,
they're itching for it.
We have no idea what this would do. Plus, we're trying to kick out 20 million illegals.
Some of them are converting.
Yeah, there's that guy who shot the people here in D.C. was a Latino convert to Islam.
Yeah.
They get tired of Roman Catholicism, and they find something in Islam. There has been a program to get blacks and Latinos to become radical Islamists. In fact, that's another thing that Iran is in trouble for, and I will bring it close to home. When the finance minister of the Shah was shot dead back in the early 80s, if I'm correct, in Langley, Virginia, a man who was dressed in a postal uniform shot him. The man got his postal uniform from my dad's childhood friend.
Wow. Who
got in trouble for and fired for lending his uniform to this man. He is a black American, radicalized in Islam at Howard University. And so there's been a CIA presence at Howard University to make certain that people didn't become Islamists. I know what it's like to have been classified as a black Muslim potential terrorist by many concerned people in school. And I always tell people as a Christian, in the words of the old man, you're just a Muslim that goes to church.
Another point I want to bring out, you even have converts of people who converted to Islam in the military.
Yeah, like the one that killed his squad down in Texas.
Yeah, he was a military officer and he got radicalized.
Or there's another one that threw a grenade in the tent of his colleagues over in the Middle East.
Yes. So
there's a real problem.
This country thinks that we go, I'm a vet. If this country thinks we need to go in, you're going to be facing a war within our own military on people who converted.
And also, they're black Americans. They would never fight for the smallest thing. They wouldn't fight for us to get popsicles in the heat wave.
Damn.
But a chance to run after light-skinned Arabs and pretend that there's this universal brotherhood, which doesn't fucking exist, not in Islam, and it's not in Christianity either. I would to God it was. It's not there. It's a fucking lie. People hate you over your skin color. They would rather go to hell than like someone that looks different from them. And that's on them. These black Muslim types, the ones who've got the peroxide beard and the ugly plastic sandals, you know what I'm talking about, brother Ford.
Yeah, those fake ass type who've got multiple wives on welfare and shit. And I mean, these guys are always looking. They're the ones that are lucky when the little racist Pakistani or Egyptian imam lets them lead the prayer, and the folks barely want to touch you, be near you because you're black. They'll do anything to fit in.
Yes.
They're despicable. I'm glad I'm a Christian.
Me
And,
too.
and I call them crescent coons. They're sorry. They don't stand up for nothing. They ain't about nothing. And they make the Elijah Muhammad Muslims look like they're more authentic. Okay, and I'm not saying that because I'm related to Elijah Muhammad. I'm saying that because at least you can get a black Muslim to see reality in this country. Get these folks convert to this esoteric, and they'll boast about how they understand the fiqh when they read Ali Ghazali, and they get all proud about they speak. I did the whole thing in Arabic and shit, and you don't even know who your fucking grandparents are in America, which county your people come from. These psycho, we got scam Africanists, and we got niglomics, nigger Muslims. They're for everything but their own people. As the guy said, you're my kind, but you're not my people. So the minute they're your friend until they convert to Islam, then all of a sudden they fucking hate you because you're a Christian and start talking down your shit. Man, that's not a pork chop. It's a popsicle. Does that have pork in it? This is did you have a ham popsicle when you were? Man, I asked you if there was pork in there, right? And y'all eat the. Have you ever been around some really stupid ass black American Muslims? You guys are fucking whack jobs. You guys are total loser, and then y'all end up quitting and going back in drugs and shit. You know, this is damn. I'm not saying I've met people that can keep it plain, keep it clean as Muslims. Okay, God help them. But I'm talking about the fake ass ones. You know, you got like 50 felonies. Well, hell, let me become a Muslim. Then I can hide being fucked up behind this other religion and talk all this stuff and preach all this stuff that they're not living in shit.
Then you got the Hebrew Israelites.
It's the same damn people.
They
rotate. Look, it's a revolving door between sorry, fucked up black men who haven't gotten their shit together, and you run off and you get different identities, and pretty soon niggas are gonna get into UFOs and shit. I'm just waiting. I'm waiting. I have no confidence. I don't. I have no confidence.
They would come and get a lot of them.
Yeah, I mean, but no, I wish they would take them, all of them. And you even meet these people. You meet the Islamic sisters, and I like being Muslim. When my body's covered, men don't know how big I am. I get more attention because I'm covered. I mean, you're still a hole. You got a big ass tattoo under your arm. I mean, under the shoulder you got on. I mean, come on, guys.
Now, I have a question. Do you think, because I saw people talking about this, you know, the Shah's son that's still alive, I forget his name.
Well, we should all forget his name because he's not going to get that shit back.
Well, do you think that's what they're trying to do to get
Of
him
course
back?
they'd like to put him back. He belongs to the CIA. He's their employee. And they have a bunch of Iranian money. They've got billions and billions of dollars. They'll put that in. They'll make, the minute he goes back, they'll make the economy blow up there. See, if you just get rid of the mullahs, just go back to watching porn and having discos and having gay cinemas and shit. Go back to that and everything will be okay. By the way, you know that people do that? They travel the world and get mad. I'm serious, you can go on and find it. They're little people, they're degenerates. They're gays that travel to find places that gay people don't get to do whatever they want. And then they report to the State Department and try to create trouble. You can't suck a dick in downtown Lima, Peru. I think that's outrageous. I should be able to suck a dick wherever I want to. It's mine. I paid for it, right? You know what? There should be, right? They travel the world looking for trouble and to push the envelope and to bully these other countries and run back. In fact, these organizations are funded, I hate to say it, by a lot of Reformed Jewish congregations. All this transgenderism, yes, you guys are doing this stuff. Okay, the same thing happened in Weimar, Germany. Okay, who was running the porn, the magazines, the movies, driving the drugs, all the stuff, pushing, making Berlin the gay capital of the world?
Mm-hmm.
Don't ask me. Go look it up. There's a book called Gay Berlin. Look it up.
Yeah.
Please don't blame me. I don't hate people. I'm just telling you what this. Trust me. I never believed this. I would go off on people. Stop lying on these folks. Why do you hate them so much? Till you start reading, saying, "Oh my God." But let me just say this to you. Now, there's another issue. Let's talk about dumb fuck Christians in America. There are lots of them. Racist dumb fuck Christians in America.
A whole lot.
They don't know a damn thing about Judaism, and they don't care to know. As long as they think white people are taking something from someone that's not white, it's got to be God's will. That includes sex, money, resources, land. If you're taking it from someone black, it's got to be God's will, whether it's South Africa or the South Pole. Take it because, land is ours to conquest, subjugate the earth. When they talk about this shit for Adam, part of subjugating the earth is fucking over black people. That's how they see their religion. It has nothing to do with Sermon on the Mount, love neighbor as self, because blacks aren't human. They're serpent seed. They're the devil's children. They can't be your neighbors. In fact, you're to shun evil, which means be nasty to black people. So, everything that Israel does, no matter how many kids they kill or blow up, whatever, hospitals, that looks like they're doing cleaning God's earth. God's will be done. In the words of that stud named Condoleezza Rice with the field goal front teeth, these are birth pangs of a new Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
Same way they see kicking black folks out of their home is economic growth. It's progress genociding Indians and folks in jungles and unclaimed, basically white unclaimed land until they get there and take and kick all the people out, kill all the animals and shit. Then they try to save, oh my God, there's this unique turtle. Now they killed all the people, but they wouldn't save the damn turtle. There are only 1 million, there are only like 10 left. So we can't, you can't have a job here to save the turtle. Anyway, these people don't know that Judaism is into the Talmud, the Mishnah, the Kabbalah. The Jewish people have a lot of stuff that they believe in. And there are things that Jewish people run away from, like Isaiah 53. Anyone Jewish, if you're listening, please read Isaiah 53, damn it. There is a Messiah, and you don't have the right interpretation of your own faith. You're in the wrong direction. There is a persecuted Messiah that's in the Hebrew Bible, whether you read it or not. I'm just saying. Now, liar, stupid, grifter, racist, evangelical, Ku Klux Klan Christian types, they used to be for Hitler when Hitler was in. Now that Hitler's out, these people have switched horses to another racist religious movement called Zionism. Zionism is like a political civic movement among all kinds of people. Did you know there are Hindu Zionists? There are people who are Hindus who absolutely hate Islam. So when Israel's killing Muslims, Hindus love it because they hate Muslims. Okay, and and they don't like dark-skinned people. So there are different people with religious perspectives, political. They've got eschatology. These evangelicals say, look, we've got to get all of these Jews back in Israel so they can kill and fuck with enough Arabs so we can have World War III so Jesus Christ can come back and save us. And we're going to give Israel every bomb. Eventually, they're going to do something to provoke these Arabs to say we can't take any more shit. And then they'll come out to fuck with the Jews, and Jesus will come out and do Armageddon and just fuck up all the Muslims, just kill all their little rag-headed asses. And we'll get to go to heaven in the rapture and watch all the people kill each other. Yay! And again, another death-defying escape of the white, crooked element that gets away with the crime of ripping off the planet for 500 years, and they still get to go to heaven. I mean, that's a hell of a science fiction idea. I mean, if I were a white supremacist, I would like it.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine, and you get to go to heaven. You enslave people, you kill them, you rape them, you take all this stuff from them. And God loves you because just because of your skin, your lack of skin melanin, you get to live in paradise with the many mansions. And if any blacks make it to heaven, they get to be your slaves. So, I mean, that's a great heaven. You haven't heard the people down south, oh, well, we'll come over to your side of heaven to see you sing. These people envision a paradise with apartheid and segregation in it. I mean, that's not biblical. But it is white America. It is white South African. It's white Canadian. It's British. It's what these people have been doing. It's absolutely insane. It's ungodly. It says that you'll know Christians by their love. It's a law of love. You're not supposed to hate people. So, and by the way, Christians are supposed to be at peace with their neighbors. You mean if God wants me to live peaceably, you mean how come every war that Israel does, these people support it no matter what? No matter how many Christians get killed in Iraq?
They don't care.
Or Gaza, the West Bank? I asked my friends, I says, what about all the people converting to Christianity in Iran? Don't you realize they'll get killed?
They don't care.
They'll say it's God's will. This is interesting. It's always God's will when it's non-white people getting killed, but it's never God's will for there to be justice or fairness or clean drinking water or access to jobs or health care when you're not white, especially if you're black. All of a sudden, God is against you getting anything. You can get in heaven, but you can't get on earth. But if you're white, you can have that stuff now and more abundantly now, even though the Bible doesn't teach that. And you have all these little racist ass people like that nasty jack-o'-lantern looking Kenneth Copeland.
Oh, God, yeah.
All of these people that are false teachers that are rich who get money from Israel. That's how they get on television. They're being... Christianity has been hijacked, going back to Schofield and coming forward. These people realize that these racist, white supremacist people who think they're Christians, apostate racist Christian, or white Christians, would be useful idiots for the project for Zionists who believe in Golem, which means basically a Jewish zombie. Okay? They're using these people, they're useful idiots, as Karl Marx called them, for this project. A lot of people think that's Christianity, but it's not.
Uh-huh. But then you got these coon pastor Republicans.
Oh yeah, and then we got trash black people. Some of them, I mean, why did the Klan stop bombing churches? I mean, I wish they would hit up some of these no good black pastors. You know, if you're a racist out there, I got a whole list of coon pastors, you know, who, I mean, just burn a little cross. I mean, even if it's like popsicle sticks, just symbolically, burn a cross in their yard, please. just remind them.
The Bible and everything else, and I'm like, wait a dang on minute. Wait a minute. You don't know the difference between the state, the current state of Israel versus the Israel in the Bible? And you call yourself a pastor?
Yeah. Now I want to respond.
I'm not listening to you.
I want to respond to this. There's someone that's saying to me, I'm white and my family has struggled since before my birth. Our whiteness has had none of the benefits that you speak of. Well, move to South Africa. It's where you're located, but if there are no benefits in whiteness, that's in part because whiteness has diminishing returns. Because the white folks, your parents' generation, those before,
did not do the best that they could to make certain that everybody got their baseline needs met. The white masses of people in this country were against things like Social Security. All these things were fought. The GI Bill, and particularly because they didn't want blacks to get it. There's all kinds of research on how reactionary, why white Americans in particular are different from Europeans who make certain that everybody gets health care and education. White Americans, the working class, your class, have been the most stupid working class in the world in its history. That you've been attacking people who haven't been fighting you. You've been the muscle, the bully, the brutes for the system that's kicking your ass too. And so don't put it on me. You need to ask why you guys have been so stupid for all these years. So damn stupid, trying to crush and smash people, and yet you let 20, 30, 40 million people in the country to punish our population, not thinking that it wouldn't screw your wages too. When black folks try to go to unions, you won't let them in, you lynch them. That's what the white working class has been. Reactionary. It hasn't been fair. It hasn't been for justice. And you are reaping the whirlwind. Whether you're everybody white's complicit, the reason being is you pointed your grief to me. You've never asked wealthy white people why you guys aren't getting your share of the pie.
Thank you.
Because we don't have the pie. We're not allowed to get it. And if you didn't get it, and I'm not keeping you from having it, then who's not sharing the pie? It ain't black people. It's the very white people that you identify with. Whiteness does have benefits. It's psychological. There's a psychological bribe. I'm better. In the words of President Lyndon Baines Johnson, if you convince a white person that they're better than a nigger, you can take every penny out of their pocket. That's how the wealthy whites see you, as stupid. And black folks these days have given up, feel like these people are never going to get it. They're always good. Like Dylan Rolfe, Dylan Rolfe 10 years ago massacred people in Charleston, South Carolina. But in March 10 years ago, targeted me. I'm not doing anything to make Dylan Rolfe poor. When I met the head of the South Carolina Knights of the Ku Klux Klan, Michael Burton, I asked him, what have black people done to you? What did we do to make you hate us so much? He didn't have an answer. You guys, part of your white benefit that you don't realize is hatred is one of your luxuries. Being able to make excuses, being able to deny the complicity, that's part of the benefit. You need to go and ask wealthy white people why they don't share, why they're allowed to keep money offshore and not pay taxes, why every time there's an election, they campaign against black people and folks like you vote for policies to screw us that screws you too. You do too benefit. You're just lying to yourself.
And especially if they live in red states, why don't you go ask your congressman, your state, why don't you bring in federal funding to bring in jobs, tech jobs, and everything else? But you don't want to do that.
You can't have it both ways. If you identify as white, you benefit from being white. No way out of it.
Right now they want to cut out SNAP and Medicaid, so there goes your health insurance and your food stamps.
Yeah, well, they're going to take that. But that's what happens. The Bible says, sow to the flesh, reap a whirlwind of corruption. People have sown to the flesh. I'm going to get this. I'm going to get to live in Levittown. No matter what, you won't live in Levittown. I'm against the people in Hurricane Katrina getting FEMA support when they're being drowned. And I wonder how that same negligence could then happen to people in Western North Carolina. We've been your white benefit is that I've been a damn canary in your coal mine for 400 years that you don't want to listen to. That's your damn benefit. Okay, I normally don't address that, but no. So someone took this as some white put down. Is that what people really got out of it? Are you that stupid to think we're talking about white people? We're talking
No.
about geopolitics, in which
You can't
race
say there's
plays a
nothing about
role,
white people. It's
and
all
like that
conversation.
guy Hedseth attacking Nobel. I'm sorry, what's that thing called? The Medal of Honor winners getting attacked posthumously, and
Yeah.
nobody having any outcry. That's a white damn benefit. White mass killers being taken alive. This guy shoots politicians in Minnesota and they take him alive.
And he
There's a
was
lot
black
of
too and been
benefits.
shot
I
dead.
see it every day. People use dope. They start handing out Narcan like it's Halloween candy. All the years that black folks overdosed from CIA dope brought into this country to
Yeah.
expand this. Yeah, America, I'm proud to be an American. That's your benefit. No, I don't need Thomas Sowell. Thomas Sowell is a goddamn Caribbean. Get off my
Oh my
platform,
God.
racist. Get off. Yeah, I love Thomas Sowell because he kisses your ass. I'm not gonna
Somebody
kiss your ass. I won't kiss
they
your
get
ass. Get off
I
my
get tired of
platform.
hearing about
I don't
Thomas
want to
Sowell.
see you. Fuck Thomas Sowell. Thomas Sowell never sees racism as a problem. So the
No.
house I live in that has a racial covenant written into it, Thomas Sowell says it means nothing, but that means when this house was built, had my mom and dad wanted to live here, we would have been told you can't have it because.
Mm.
How dare Thomas Sowell was at the Hoover Institute out in Stanford, where they don't even let black students in because of what they've done with the laws in California. He's a Caribbean liar. I'm not saying everything he says is wrong, but you know what? Thomas Sowell, they don't ever let Thomas Sowell debate anybody black that's serious. They'll put him up against Jesse Jackson, someone like that that's not for real. Ask Thomas Sowell why in the hell are reparations good enough for white people, for the Homestead Act, for the Japanese, and for other people to be repaired. For white people who got screwed in Iran, that they sued and they've given all this money for Iran, they get repaired, but we can't. Why did the white slaveholders in America get restituted and here in Washington, D.C.? Why did the Caribbean slaveholders get reparations for owning people in the Caribbean, where his black ass is from, and yet the people who enslaved themselves get nothing? Fuck Thomas Sowell. I
Mm-hmm.
mean that. Don't ever come to me with that man's name. Not because I don't read Thomas Sowell, but because it's always the victim of racism and imperialism's fault. It's never the people that are the winners. And Thomas Sowell is paid by rich, crooked ass white people to fuck people like you, and you think I'm the one that's crazy. You're out of your damn mind. And you know what? I see why 80%, somewhere between 60 to 80% of the psychotropic drugs in this world are used by white Americans because you guys are crazy. You're sick. You're sick. You can't face reality. You're suckers. You've been cuckolded over your skin color. And you don't like anybody to tell you anything. You brought all these illegals over here. Now they burning your flag. They'll be burning your homes one day. You'll miss our
Yeah.
black asses. I need to stop here, man.
They sure will. They live in a cognitive dissonant bubble.
No, they live in a bubble where nobody can say anything to me. Look.
There's cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, well, the
Dissonance,
point is that
psychological.
you're a dying population because you don't reproduce. You expect your population to grow. You guys don't even want to make children anymore.
And your kids are being transgender.
You guys, get out of my face. I don't have these things to have an interracial conversation. I'm not interested. You got all of that.
We're
You
talking
got
about
Tom.
real
You got
politics.
Rogan. You got all of those white platforms. You got Fucker Carlson. You got all those people that you can listen to who can blow smoke up your blank asses or your pale asses. I'm not doing that. I'm not interested in a dialogue with you. This is a dialogue with my own. Your ass eavesdrop. If your feelings got hurt, great. That's a white benefit too when you don't mind your damn business.
Because black
Sister
people
Aya.
sure mind our damn business. All the stuff
Yeah, I
going
don't
on
I
in
don't go I
California.
don't go on white websites trying to listen to and hear what I don't we already know. Go back to Africa. We hate you. You're subhuman. We're used to it. Take your ass somewhere. Talk to each other. The benefit of being white is you can talk to another damn white person and get their ass to think instead of trying to talk me, con me out of that. You're not superior to me. You're inferior to me. You'll never know what I know. Get off my platform. I'm not here to entertain you. I'm not here to kumbaya with you. That is not what this is about. This is about our people being asked to die in a stupid war when we can't get benefits for our veterans, when our seniors are being put out, where people are being told to make it on $5 or $10 a month in SNAP, and these people get thousands, and it didn't bother you because you dumped these fuckers in our area until they started killing your asses driving drunk with the CDLs and all the corruption that you've allowed because it kept us out of shit. It's a white benefit to walk around and pretend you're a victim when you walk with the majority and you benefit whether you like it or not. And in fact, proof, one of your benefits is that you could smoke crack and keep a job. You could be high and keep a job. You can be a crooked cop and harass people. There's a lot of stuff that's a benefit every damn day of your life. You don't know what it means to be white because you are white. That's the benefit. You've been insulated from humanity. It's a benefit not to know and feel this stuff. And if hearing my black voice bothers you, thank God. Let my voice be a rotor-rooter for your constipated cognitive dissonance.
Woo.
All right, guys, we need to go. We need to do this again.
I loved it.
We need to come back and talk about illegals. And I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn. I absolutely don't give a damn. You can't make me give a damn about that. I rarely say something, but I didn't get it. Hell yeah, you got. My parents worked hard. If your parents were immigrants, you came over here off the labor and land of my Indian ancestors. Y'all stole our shit, stole my identity. I don't even know my damn Indian language. I'm gonna have to try to find out how to learn Cherokee. I had to take me years to find out who the hell I am because of what y'all have done to our families. There's no benefit. You know where your family came from in Europe. They're depopulated. Go back and bolster the white population before the Islamics and other people run you out of the old country that you talk so much about. They're not the only people. These illegals aren't the only ones that wave flags all the time. Go back to where you came from.
Sister Aja, you have any final thoughts before we close out?
No, I enjoyed it. That was an excellent. Oh man, I loved listening to Dr. Short. He went further back with all of the history. I hope that people rewatch it as many times and share it.
Well,
Geopolitics can be complicated, but it's an interesting thing to learn.
let's do one
Why we're here.
more thing. Where we are, that I want everybody to be afraid for and pray about. I've been saying this for 2 years. And by the way, my prayer includes there being no white victims. The Iranians have surface-to-surface missiles that can hit ships. They've been developing them for 40 years. God forbid if they're hypersonic ones. They could make mincemeat of our carrier groups. And that's thousands and thousands of dead Americans of all colors, predominantly white. As much as these little bastards will make me a racist. And I've been praying, God, spare our servicemen and women.
Yes.
Even though a bunch of them, we know, see us as subhuman monkeys.
Yep.
I still don't want to see them blown up and killed. I don't want that to happen. And I'm saying to you that some sense better come to
the president and other people about this damn activity, because if their hypersonic missiles are as good as those that have gotten around the Iron Dome and the Golden Dome, then whatever our aged out aircraft carriers have isn't up to speed to resist being hit by hypersonic missiles. That's a lot of young, dead Americans that deserve to live out the fullness of their lives. If someone thinks I hate America or Americans of any color, why do I pray for these people to live? And there are not as many black folks in the Navy as the Army. So it's not like, ooh, it's just black people, that Americans.
Yes.
Even though we won't be treated like Americans. And they're Air Force people, and black folks aren't heavy in the Air Force. It's going to be a lot of young white men wasted. That's what could happen if America bothers Iran. Pakistan, which has the nukes, could get some stuff over to Iran, and Iran would have a nuke.
And Russia and North Korea.
This is not a good thing. The Gulf of Hormuz, gas, everything will suffer. The American people of all colors, all backgrounds will suffer. It's not necessary. It's one man. Netanyahu's ass needs to be deposed. Quick, fast, in a hurry. And in America, judgment. I'm looking at all the rain, the unseasonably cool weather here in Washington, D.C. And in Pennsylvania, too. Have you noticed, Brother Q, how rainy and cool it's been? It's never like this. Not in June.
It's hot here.
No. But out here, it's normally super hot and humid.
Ooh.
Hasn't been. It's been rainy, cool. It's almost like a warning. America doesn't have any more chances with the Most High. If you go in and you mass murder people in another country, it might be the one that God says, you know what? These people need to be knocked down to size. And you know what? We live in America. If they bomb America, I live 2.1 miles from the Capitol, 3.1 miles from the White House. I'll burn up and be, a reactive set of ashes. I don't want nukes. I've always understood if there's a war, living in D.C., you're dead. I take it very seriously. Diplomacy was working. Diplomacy got undermined by a person named Netanyahu or Satanyahu who doesn't want peace. This is Dr. Randy Short. Hit up the Cash App at Dr. Randy Short, $ Dr. Randy Short. Dr. Randy Short is a Cash App. DrRandyShort is the Zelle. The DrRandyShort at gmail.com is the Zelle and the PayPal. DrRandyShort at gmail.com is the Zelle and the PayPal. Why do I want donations? Because I buy books. Books. I've got at least, I've got about $300 or $400 worth of books I need to get in the next month and a half. So actually, just round out. Make it 4. Make it 5. Send it, no matter what it is, because, and I'm not doing it tonight because we went long on this, but I am going to read this book. I've got to go and help my mother get a car registered tomorrow. And we can have another one. We can do a part 2. And so this was nice to do this, and we can get other people. Brother Q, thank you for staying up. I know
Thank you so much.
I can see him doubling over, snoring and everything. I don't want you to lose your white job. And my white Jesus says good night to everybody.
Jesus.
White Jesus says good night to everybody.
Take care. See you guys
Yes,
next
do
time.
a part 2.